Hello and welcome to the Graveyard Media Podcast, episode 68 for the week of November 26, 2018. God, I fucked that one up hardcore.
That was,
Damn.
yeah. I should have told you what day it was. What day is it?
I literally said it right before and then forgot before we actually went there. Also, it's 68. So, yeah. Episode 68. We're professionals.
Hey, Saine, do you know
We're
what
almost
day
about
it
to
is?
not be professionals, baby. I'm ready. I'm ready for next week, boys.
What
Yeah,
hap- what's
yeah. I'm gonna have to
happening next
prepare something special for that shit.
What the hell is happening next
I
week?
have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, y'all know what it is.
I don't.
We episode 68 this week.
Oh,
Next week's gonna be fun.
Oh no!
whatever.
Here we fucking go.
It's all right. Don't worry. Don't worry. You know, I know it only comes once every couple of years, and we're gonna have to wait even longer for episode 420. But
Yeah,
you know how it is.
I know how it is.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off by talking about games and movies we've seen this week, and then after a quick break, talk about game and movie news.
Okay, sounds good.
So who wants to start this week?
Yeah,
No.
fuck it.
Oh, you actually have
So-
something? Okay.
Oh yeah. I have two things, and that's it.
okay.
Oh, well, that's another thing. So, I'm sorry. I was looking at something and noticed that it looks like the new Mystery Science Theater guys, which honestly I think are pretty okay. I did a bunch of fucking.
I thought man, dude, you were slamming them when you heard about it.
Oh yeah, I was slamming them when I heard about them, and then I watched them and I was like, these guys are like about as good as like a bad episode of Mystery Science Theater, or like just a regular
which
miscellaneous,
were still decent.
which was still decent, yeah. But the problem I have with them is essentially like I feel like they rapid fire jokes way too fast and don't give you any time to like breathe or the movie any time to talk. They feel like they
Right.
have to stuff every second with a joke, and that could be better. But aside from that, like the percentage of good jokes they have are like pretty on par with what I would expect from Mystery Science Theater. So
Yeah,
I-
honestly, a lot of the jokes in the old one kind of fell flat sometimes, so I don't think it was.
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, and a lot of the jokes in the old one were super like time period based.
My favorite parts of Mystery Science Theater were the skits, more so than watching the stupid movies because they were all bad.
Mm.
It's basically like the same thing as watching a riff tracks if you don't have the
Riff
skit
Tracks
line.
exists because of Mystery Science Theater, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like it's just like watching a riff tracks if you don't have the skits. So like how are the skits in the new one?
Skits are fine. You probably really like the Joel era Mystery Science Theater then,
Okay, that's fair.
because Joel always had the best skits, but Mike had the
Really?
best jokes.
Fair
And
enough.
I love both of them. I like Mystery Science Theater, and it came out on Thanksgiving, and that's been like
and the
a
theme
tradition.
Song.
Yeah,
I
the
like
theme
the
song.
theme song.
Yeah. Oh, what was that thought? Oh yeah, I did two things this week. Unfortunately, Mystery Science Theater was not one of them, even though it's Thanksgiving, and thus is the tradition.
You did two
Uh,
things. You played
Witcher,
The Witcher
1 and
1 and The Witcher 2. Yeah.
So I finished Witcher 1. I was going to come out here and talk about how I sort of felt like the final boss's motivation wasn't very good and didn't make a lot of sense, but then like within the last 3 minutes of the game, it hit me with a twist that basically put its hands on its hips and said, "Well, whose fault is that, asshole?" And it was wonderful. The last chapter and the last the last chapter and prologue, they're not as long as chapter 2, but they are really tedious because it's essentially just a bunch of fights one after another, and it didn't need to go that long. It wasn't as bad, but it could have slowed the fuck down a little bit. I loved chapter 3 and chapter 4. Chapter 4 is my favorite chapter.
Did you Did you finish Witcher 1?
Witcher 1? Yeah, I finished it.
Okay, wow, I can't believe you finished Witcher 1 so quickly.
Yeah,
That
I
game
kinda blew
seemed like
through
it was really long.
Yeah. think I put like 30 hours into it though.
Right.
I did. It's not that I skipped all of the side quests. I skipped like a lot of the notice board side quests because a lot of the notice board side quests were kill this many things and bring me this many thing hearts, and I was like, I don't want to fucking do that. That's not going to help me with the story or anything.
Yeah, that's not always the most. That's not really. Fun.
Another reason, like as I was playing it, I noticed in like chapter 4 that is my favorite chapter is essentially like, okay, well, I fuck off to this other place and have to deal with this horrible Shakespearean tragedy, which is fun as hell. And part of the reason that I hated chapter 2 is because it takes a long time and nothing fucking happens. Like
Right.
in the end, it turns out the guy who was helping you investigate who did the thing was the guy who did the thing, but not like he was the guy who did the thing all along. He was the guy who did the thing, but transformed into the guy who was helping you investigate it. And it was like, okay, well, I've wasted all my fucking time and the story hasn't moved forward for legitimately half of the time I've been playing this entire game through.
Yeah,
to the
it
end.
was like 6 hours that you were playing just chapter 2 alone, right?
Yeah, which, you know, and then I fuck off and do this entirely different story that has to do with like the twist in the end with the main villain. It's like, wow, this whole ass story is a lot of fun and I like all of the things that it's doing, and I don't even care that I'm basically completely removed from the main plot because this shit is great.
Right.
And it was nice. Whereas like it's sort of chapter 2 just meandered around with the main plot, and like the other chapter, like I was willing to go through like the last chapter because it was a bunch of battle fights just over and over and over again, and it got really, really, really tedious, especially the fucking sewer monster that just like kind of went on forever. But like the plot progressed, and that's all I wanted. It essentially, like again, it's not like the worst game that I played all the way through, like mechanically, but it got a little bit tedious. Witcher 2, though, I imported my save, and like I'm going to talk about the one thing that I don't like about Witcher 2 is I imported my save, and I romanced Shani in the first one, and I got a note explaining that fucking Geralt left Shani, and they were still friends, but he had to leave. So now you're with the other romantic interest anyway. Fuck you.
Right.
And that kind of blows. I feel like I kind of imported my save for nothing.
Right.
But aside from that, everything else is so much better. I don't fucking understand how the combat works for the most part, but the story pacing is significantly better. The side quests are significantly better. Like there's the notice board quest that I was talking about that felt like just fucking go kill this many things. The notice board quests all have like a little thing where it's not just kill this many things. It's like stop these spider layers from happening, or kill this specific thing's queen. And then the one that's like my favorite quest in the game so far was kill a troll. I go out and try to kill the fucking troll. I find a dude like being hounded by monsters just in the fucking road. I saved the guy from being hounded by monsters. He's like, oh, thank you, man. I can't believe that fucking asshole is just doing this shit and just letting this shit fucking happen. Who? The troll! That man is supposed to protect the roads and build the bridge, but he's too busy getting drunk off his ass. And now our fucking leader wants his ass dead. Oh yeah, that's why I'm here. Could you help him with his fucking drinking problem? And he helped the troll with his drinking problem. It's wonderful.
So you
But
like Witcher 2 a lot better than Witcher 1.
Oh yeah, I feel like it is a significant upgrade.
Now my specific question, how does the combat compare?
The combat is significantly better, but unfortunately, like the thing is, like with Witcher 1, I was like, okay, this is how you do the combat. And you do it, and after like a little while, it gets kind of boring. In The Witcher 2, the combat is like, okay, all right. So I've run into a part where I cannot damage anything. I'm not exactly sure why. I have the best sword you can get, the best armor. Which mechanic do I not know exists? Because I did like the tutorial and thing to like do the I did the tutorial before the game started to learn about how the new combat system worked, and it was like, okay, I get it. I feel like I'm missing something, and I definitely am. Sometimes I'm missing something, like the fact that I'm just doing tiny little bits of chip damage to a guy and will never ever possibly win the fucking like battle, the uphill battle to kill this thing, even if I'm like entirely perfect at dodging and blocking. But then I realized if I like use the art sign, I can knock them down and kill them in one hit.
Uh-huh. Huh.
It's like there are little things and little mechanics that you have to constantly go through, and it's essentially it is the same with like potions. Like in the previous game, what you had to do is you had to like drink potions and prepare for battles, and you have to do the same thing in this game, and that's fine. And I feel like in this game, using potions is a lot more necessary, but you get a lot more alchemical ingredients because you don't have to deal with what's probably my least favorite game thing in the first one is you gotta fucking buy books for like $200 to be able to find the alchemical ingredients you need off of corpses and around.
Oh, that's
And
bad.
also you need to put a point into herbalism.
Why do you
be
need
able to pick
buy a
herbs?
book to learn it and put a point in? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That just sounds kind of shitty.
From a story reason, you lost your memory. From a gameplay reason, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's the worst.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
maybe
you don't
I
have to do
really
that in this
should
one.
just skip to The Witcher 2.
I like The
just-
Witcher 2 a lot.
You should probably just switch to The Witcher 3 because I think that's the one you actually want to play.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you import your save in The Witcher 1 to The Witcher 2, and it does basically fucking anything except give you your items that you had in The Witcher 1, which are like the best starting gear. In The Witcher 3, it apparently does even fucking less, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it anyway.
I see.
Yeah, Witcher
yeah.
3 it feels really unconnected from the other two.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So, like, honestly, if you want to play Witcher 1 and 2 because you want to play 3, just play 3. If you
Right.
want to play Witcher 2, then play Witcher 2. But
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to play either of them. Just play
Oh
Witcher
yeah,
3
you don't,
if
you don't,
want
you're
to play
not,
Witcher
you're not
3.
obligated. The reason that I did was purely because of the fact that I played through the first one and then I came into the second one and I was like immediately walking into the town of the second one. I was like, someone was like, "All right, so we got this bard and this fucking dwarf strung up and we're gonna hang him tonight." I'm like, "Oh, Dandelion and Zoltan are getting up to their fucking shenanigans again. I wonder how they got into this one." It was like,
Yeah,
there's the friends again.
I feel like there's no like direct ties between them in terms
No,
of
Witcher-
like, story plot.
Witcher 2 takes place
Right,
like
but
a
that's
year later.
But that's something like I wouldn't even know who the fuck are this bard and dwarf?
You
The
won't
game's
anyway.
Presenting it like I'm supposed to know.
You
What?
literally won't anyway unless
What?
you read
Did
the
you
books.
not just listen to
Yeah,
what
no,
Thel
no.
said?
Well,
that
no,
was-
because even
what?
even in Witcher 1, there's characters that you meet for the first time in Witcher 1 that you would know if you had read the books. So
right,
it's
but
like
Geralt
Yeah.
doesn't know them.
Yeah,
um
he does know them in
yes,
Witcher 2.
yes and no, but
He
I don't know.
he lost his memory essentially. So like you're meeting these people with Geralt if you haven't played, essentially meeting the people with Geralt. And they're like, "Hey, Geralt, it's been a fucking long time, you crazy ass. What the fuck you doing?"
but my point was not
Yeah.
that. It was more
even
that
if you play the first one first, you would
Yeah.
have.
there are
some
plenty of
connection.
characters you would know more about if you read the books. So it's
Yeah.
like all of these characters that are in this game are all like subtle references and like things from the books. So like
Yeah.
no matter what, unless you read the books, you won't be getting the full experience out of it anyway. So you might as well
Yeah.
just play the third one.
Fair
That's
enough.
kind of where I'm at.
Fair enough.
Um,
I want to try The Witcher 2 because I haven't even tried booting up The Witcher 2 because I didn't finish the first one, but like skipping the first one seems fine to me because I hate it so much, and people say that that The Witcher 2 is just a lot better. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's better in just about every way. And like I said, probably the thing is like with a lot of The Witcher 1, I kind of had to like, okay, all right, now I'm gonna put on fucking Making a Murderer season 2 in the background and just like watch that while I try to power through this bullshit part, because it's gonna get better in like a little bit. There's gonna be a good part, I know it, but I just gotta get through
Right.
this particular bullshit. But for The
Yeah.
Witcher 2, I'm just like constantly excited to play this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I love going through the story and seeing how it plays out. It's wonderful.
right. Okay.
So yeah, if you want to only skip like as little as you can, just skip The Witcher 1. If you want to play through them, fucking go ahead. And if you want to like just play The Witcher 3, there's no reason not to, because they each take place like a year after the other one and are like completely different stories to the
Yeah,
point
they
where
just
like
went to
the
different-
fact that I was essentially sided with the Thel last game almost has never come up, which is
Right.
weird because I am also siding with the Thel in this game.
I see.
Purely because I sided with the Thel in the last
I don't
game.
even know what a Scoia'tael is, but all right.
That's surprising. You got to chapter 3.
No, I didn't.
Oh no, chapter 2 I mean.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you
I
did.
think
You
I,
said that you
I
stopped.
pretty.
No, I think you
was
were
in-
thinking about me.
I was in the
Maybe.
swamp, but
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure I was
Yeah, that was
in the
chapter 2.
swamp in the part that you had to go to the swamp for chapter 1.
You don't have to go to the swamp for chapter 1. You
Okay,
don't get
well,
into
then
the demon until chapter 2.
In that case, I had just gotten to the.
He
to
probably just
chapter
doesn't
2.
remember.
I don't
like,
know.
No, okay.
I don't remember any of that either. So, and I
Alright.
think I got farther than Dalsson in Witcher 1, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Witcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the second one is great, and I absolutely recommend it.
Witcher
so
3 Witcher 3 for me was just a matter of like I picked it up late and a lot of other things were happening, so I played it for a brief amount of time, put it down and never touched it again. So
I see.
I probably want to go back to The Witcher 3 if nothing else. Because
Yeah.
that one more so than the other ones feels like a real action role-playing game, where the other ones kind of
Right.
feel like weird things that are not exactly anything.
Like a CRPG that you're supposed to control with WASD instead.
Even
Well,
then,
this feels
like
like
that,
a CRPG with
Exactly.
with actual combat more, which is nice.
Right. Not to say I'm against CRPGs that are from a third-person perspective. KOTOR 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games of all time, but
Yeah.
The Witcher just didn't do
Well,
it for me.
even then, I think The Witcher 1 never felt like an action RPG. It felt like a rhythm game.
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Witcher 1 is not an ARPG in any way, shape,
Yeah.
or form, and I would say that The Witcher 2 is, because
Right.
in The Witcher 1 the combat is like sort of secondary. It's just there.
Secondary to the slog that you have to go through. And then tertiary to all of those things is the plot, because you have to go through those shit to get to it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you're always getting to the plot. It's just when the plot slogs, the game slogs. That's what I was saying about The Witcher 2. The plot pacing is a lot better.
Right. That's good.
And like in The Witcher 1, it's like there are some side quests that are really, really good. Like the whole like getting the guy to turn into not be a werewolf anymore was a great side quest and had like
Mhm.
ramifications on the story. It was wonderful. But then it was like the entire like main quest where you had to do this investigation was just like, oh, come on the fuck on. I don't want to have to run between these guys' house and then like have to continue the story to a point that it fucks up some of my side quests. I don't want to. This is the
I
worst.
think even from a story and writing perspective, the third one is supposed to be the best, even on that level in terms of
Mhm.
the side quests and stuff.
All right.
So I that's what I've heard, but I don't actually know. But Witcher 3 is supposed to be the best one in all respects, not just combat. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exciting.
let's move on.
Okay.
Because that's all I got.
All right.
Because that's pretty much all I've done this week.
Why
I
don't
mean,
you
I
talk
can talk
about-
about the food I made.
Why don't you talk about Warhammer Mechanicus?
Okay, so
Yeah.
last week I wanted to talk a little bit about Warhammer 40k Mechanicus, but I'm pretty sure we discussed Fallout 76 for like an hour and a half, so I didn't get to. So this week I'll talk about Warhammer 40k Mechanicus.
I think you briefly talked about it last time,
Maybe, but I hadn't played much of it.
right?
So in this game, what you are a detachment of. I've got to think of all these stupid Warhammer 40k words. You're a bunch of tech priests, right? Which are like the Imperium of Man's tech support hotline. And you are going off to a planet to do something. I forget what, but you're on this massive fucking planet cracker sized battle cruiser, and I don't know what you actually went there for, but you started sending troops down to the surface. They started disappearing. You go in and you find out, oh no, the planet's infested with Necrons, which are like robot skeletons. So now your goal is to just purge all of the Necrons. And
As you do.
as you do, of course, yes, just purge the Xenos. And so one thing that the gameplay, I'll actually talk about the gameplay briefly first. It's pretty darn close to XCOM, except Whereas in XCOM, you use a cover system. The Imperium of Man has no need for cover. You just need more guns. So there is no cover system in this game. Instead, you have energy armor and physical armor, which you can get by, upgrading your tech priests and whatnot. They also have an interesting, unique mechanic called cognition, which you can gain through certain actions. Like if one of your Mook allies gets killed, you gain cognition, or you can scan an enemy for cognition. And what cognition does is it is basically like extra action points like you would have in XCOM, except your cognition can be used on any unit. So you can gather cognition, and then if one particular unit needs to move across the entire fucking map, you can just spend 5 cognition moving him across the entire map. They also have things to burn it, like some weapons require cognition to fire and whatnot. But what I think this game actually really shines on is the story and characters, which sounds really strange for a 40k game.
The thing is,
you have this
good stuff with the 40k universe. It's just no one ever does.
Yeah, well, I think they kind of did this time, but I
Except
might
for
be a little.
Alpha Busa.
Yeah, thanks, brother Alpha Busa.
We love you.
But I think they actually did it pretty well this time, because so you have like this council of useless assholes, right?
Good.
So one of them, they're all Adeptus Mechanicus members. So they're all fucking tech priests. They all have their own little goals. One guy will only speak in a robot voice, like HK-47 from KOTOR. He'll be like, "Inquiry, do you blah 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 blah," and his every objective, every mission that he sends you on will be to gather intelligence or download data. He really likes it when you download Necron data. But there's another guy who's a tech priest who subscribes to suffer not the Xeno to live and purge everything that a Xeno has touched. So you piss him off every time you help the first guy who wants to know, who goes for knowledge. And so what you get is, within missions, whenever you're doing a mission for anybody, over your radio comms, everybody will basically start fighting about what the goal of Cult Mechanicus really is. This guy will be like, "No, we have to collect and preserve knowledge. If we if we study these Necron findings, then it will add to the sum of all human knowledge, thus furthering our ultimate goal and getting us closer to the Omnissiah." And the other guy is like, "No, Xeno knowledge will taint us and bring us further away from the Omnissiah. We will be shunned, and the Cult Mechanicus will fall apart." And and so there's a lot of infighting. And then there's another lady who just wants. Yeah, there's another lady. None of them are fucking right at all. They're all dumb. That's the point.
That's basically the plot of 40k. It's right there.
Exactly.
None of them are right at all.
They're all stupid. That's the whole plot of 40k. But it is
a grim, dark fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Step one of that is just being idiots.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's how it starts. There's one lady that I really like, because she has exactly one goal. So Skitari are Mars is where the tech priests are. I don't know what to call their faction. Cult Mechanicus, Adeptus Mechanicus, I don't know what to fucking call it. But they're basically, Skitari are mechanoid ground troops that they're people, but they're affiliated with the Mars faction. So they're just like the normal Mook troops. They're not tech priests. They're not they don't have crazy fucking bolters. They're like the Imperial Guard are to Space Marines. And this lady, all she wants every mission is just, "Please go save my Skitari. They're trapped here. My Skitari are here, and they're not holding back the Necrons, and they need support from a tech priest. My Skitari are all gonna die." And that's the only mission she sends you on, and she's great, and she's the only person who's right.
Okay, fair enough.
Of course, you have to do missions for everybody, because each individual mission will unlock different pieces of technology. And that's the last thing I kind of want to talk about is being that you are a bunch of tech priests, it stands to reason that if you wanted to make a game about a bunch of tech priests, you would have a very robust body modification system in place, right?
That sounds fun.
And boy, howdy do you ever. Every single part of their body has like, you can replace it with mechanical parts. You can, like, including their head and torso, you can just replace it with a mechanical part. There are all kinds of like augment slots, and as you level up, you'll unlock more space for things. The unfortunate part is that your weapons also cost augment slots. So in order to even have a baseline of good, decent weapons, you have to level up your priests a couple times. But I am really in love with the modification system of this game. You can customize your guys so infinitely, and it's so much more robust than XCOM. Like, you know, XCOM, you get a skill tree and you kind of go down it and you select from one or two every once in a while. But with this, it's just like you have like a skill like forest that branches out, you know. Not like Path of Exile exactly, but like there's a large group of skills that you can learn. Every skill you upgrade also gives you access to more body modification parts, which you can further modify your skills. Different actions to take in and out of combat. And that's the last thing.
Before you move on, though, that's actually one of my favorite things about Fallout 76 is the amount of customization between individual weapons and stuff. So it's kind of cool to hear that about that game in a sort of an XCOM style format game.
Yeah. And the way that you unlock all of these things is like multifold. You can unlock things through doing missions. You can unlock things if you decide to study Necron architecture. You can also unlock things when you like save Skitaria. Skitaria will be like, hey, I have this las gun here. You can take it and reverse engineer it. And then you get that gun. Or you can unlock it simply by killing Necrons. And you also unlock it through the upgrade tree by natural progression as well. So,
is the game as punishing as XCOM is?
Oh, my yes. No.
Oh, good.
So
no, yes, maybe.
It's the game itself is a lot harder to actually win in missions, right?
Okay.
Than XCOM is, I would say. However, when you lose a tech priest, they are not dead. You just have to pay to repair them, essentially. Being that they are mostly machine anyway, it makes sense.
What about like the overall time crunch of XCOM? Because that was one of my least favorite parts of at least the first one.
So the time crunch is still there, but I never feel as though I'm racing against the clock to get upgrades. I think I am just racing against the clock to the end of the game. So what it has is the Necron Awakening timer. And that is both within missions and out of missions. So within missions, the way missions are structured, I don't think I ever went over this, is that there are a bunch of rooms. So it's kind of like a dungeon crawl, and each room that you go to can have a combat or a choice or something like that. Well, every time you move a room, the Necron timescale advances and they awaken further. The longer you spend in a dungeon, the more the Necrons will awaken and the harder combat will become through unique bonuses. Like there will be more Necrons, or each Necron gets +2 to physical defense, depending on how long you've gone, right? Okay. Now, at the end of a mission, how long you spent in the dungeon also contributes to the overall awakening bar. So essentially, you have until that awakening bar gets to 100%. And I don't know what happens when it does, but they say that all of the Necrons will wake up and we will be forced to retreat. So I assume the game is over if you let that bar fill up. I have yet to find a way to decrease it, but I am willing to bet that there are ways to decrease it. But it doesn't, like, that overall, like, within the missions, the longer you spend, they get harder. But that overall awakening bar doesn't seem to contribute to their difficulty. The difficulty only seems to be based on what mission step you are on for each individual character.
That actually sounds more pleasant than XCOM, to be honest, for me. So
yeah, because XCOM was like, well, if you don't stand there and research for 45 days, but if I research the wrong thing 45 days later, then it's Yeah.
For me, XCOM felt more like no matter what I did, if I wasn't being as efficient as possible, I was probably fucking up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I from what you've told me about Mechanicus so far, that doesn't sound as bad
Right.
for that feeling in particular, anyway.
Yeah. It's really the difficulty ramping up in missions. The difficulty can get insane. I've gotten to the point where I lost a tech priest and my other tech priest only had energy weapons. And then, oops, I took a step and all of the Necrons now have +2 energy resistance. And I literally could not kill any Necrons. It was impossible. And there's no way to extract, so I just had to let my guy die and lose a lot of money.
Oh.
Because you repair your tech priests with the same resource you use to upgrade them. So obviously you want to keep them alive so that you can upgrade them faster.
Do you get anything for losing?
You can keep all of the resources that you found up to that point, but if your losses outweigh your gain, then obviously it's not gonna. Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if it's like good to go as far as you can before dying, or well, there's no way to extract anyway, so it's more about picking the right missions you can handle, right?
Exactly. The only way to you automatically finish a mission and extract when you finish the main objective of the mission. The question is, how long do you want to explore the rest of the dungeon? And the rest of the dungeon can be very lucrative to explore because you can get like choices for like tech caches and you can just unlock a technology automatically, or you can get more upgrade materials. But sometimes you'll just come up against a choice that's like, destroy the Necron bombs or study the Necron bombs. And if you destroy them, they blow up and hurt all your guys. And if you study them, they blow up and hurt all your guys. So sometimes there are just lose-lose choices, which I say is pretty fitting for Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And I like mechanically, I think within the combat, it's mechanically simpler than XCOM. But again, I've only played like 4 or 5 hours of it, so it may get more complicated as I unlock more.
Yeah, because I always liked tactics, like tactic RPGs more so than like strategy games. But XCOM was always a weird one for me because I felt like the way that the difficulty was set up just didn't feel fun for me.
Right.
And I never even tried XCOM 2 because while the structure of XCOM 2 is a bit different in a way than XCOM 1. Like, I had already kind of burned myself on the first one, I thought.
Yeah, I actually liked XCOM 2 a lot better than XCOM 1. I felt like XCOM 2 was a lot more forgiving in the overall time scale and a lot more punishing within the missions, which is how I feel about Mechanicus as well. I would like the combat to be difficult, but I don't want the combat to... I don't want the overall, like, every single combat to be so difficult just because I fucked up 20 fucking saves ago, you know?
Right.
Which is what XCOM 1 felt like, whereas XCOM 2 just felt like, oh, it's getting tough now because of I'm using tactics wrong, or not because I didn't research the right thing at the right time.
Right. Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. So I'd recommend Mechanicus. For probably the first 40k game I'd recommend in a long, long time.
Yeah, since Dawn of War 2, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You make more better 40k games, gosh darn it.
Or unless you count Vermintide, but that's not 40k.
Yeah, no, that's Warhammer.
Yeah, that's Warhammer Fantasy.
The Warhammer Fantasy games have actually had a better track record, funnily enough.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Warhammer. I want Warhammer 40k Total War. I want Warhammer 40k Orkentide, but they won't make it. Games Workshop doesn't give a shit about Warhammer Fantasy, but they'll protect 40k like a rabid dog and only give it to people who do shitty shit with it.
Well, I think the opposite is true. I think they just started giving it to anyone. I think they just started giving everything to anyone. And people have to care about Warhammer Fantasy, but Warhammer 40k feels like a cash-in for people.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening. I think it's because Warhammer 40k people are just so desperate for anything that they'll buy shit. So
yeah.
No offense to 40k fans.
Yeah.
The
two of us here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you guys actually played like the miniature game?
Oh,
I
know
don't
them.
got that kind of fucking money. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
$40 goddamn dollars.
Oh, a makeshift army's really cheap. You only have to spend $70 or $80 for paints to get a makeshift. That's nothing.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's on the paints, you know.
As compared to the $40,000. That's why they call it Warhammer 40k.
Just play
yeah.
unpainted miniatures and have people be mad at you. Or
Yeah,
just
this
have
is,
them all solid one color, like ugly green or something.
Yeah. Just
Oh
dip them
yeah,
in the
just play as
paint.
orcs.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Just like dip them in the most thick paint possible. That's extra coating of armor.
Yeah.
These are the salamanders. I call them super salamanders.
The super salamanders.
Hold on a second. Because of the fact that the alcohol is in it, the thing that's really cool about the super salamanders is takes out lighter, lights it on fire. I can make them do that.
Actually be on fire.
Salamanders. Yeah.
It
See?
gets much more expensive than a normal army.
Yeah.
But no, I've never played the miniature game. I think that Thel and I both are much more into the fluff than the crunch.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Why don't we move on?
Sure.
Do you have another game you want to talk about, or should I move into She-Ra?
Nah, I think
Yeah.
you should move into She-Ra.
Yeah, I ain't got shit.
Okay.
I could talk about RimWorld if we need to fill time, but I don't think we will.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because we got She-Ra and Wreck-It Ralph to talk about.
Yeah.
So I saw She-Ra, the Netflix show I watched over the course of this last week. There's 13 episodes, and each are about 25 minutes ish. You know, with credits and stuff. So I really enjoy the show. My biggest complaint with it is the climax of the season didn't feel particularly impactful. It felt like the episode, like 2 episodes before the climax, was kind of a big moment, and then the other 2 episodes kind of wrapped up that season's plot.
Right.
And it really, it obviously telegraphed what's coming up for the series, but didn't conclude in a satisfying way. So what's kind of happening with it is it's a 13 episode series that feels like it should have had 26 episodes in it.
Right.
So as a result, what kind of happens is there's kind of a large ensemble cast. There's the Adora, who turns into She-Ra. She's the main character. There's 2 side characters, Glimmer and Bo, who are her friends on the good side. And then there's Catra, Scorpia, and Shadow Weaver, who are the villains on the other side. And they actually... So they spend a pretty considerable amount of time with those characters, but they also introduce 4 other characters on the good side and don't really give them that much character development in the same way they do spend on the villains.
Right.
Scorpia probably doesn't get a lot of development, but Mistweaver kind of does, and Catra, who is like the main villain, gets a lot of screen time. And in fact, one of the episodes, probably the best episode of the season, I think it's episode 11, that's the one that I was talking about earlier that came before the climax, was an episode purely between Adora and Catra, kind of through simulation reliving a lot of their childhood memories of each other. Which was a really interesting kind of way to balance the 2 characters. So the basic plot of the series is Adora is raised on the evil side in the Horde, but is presented with information that makes her think she's doing the right thing, that being a good guy from her perspective. But when she ends up going to places in the the good areas, I don't even know what to call them, the places outside the Fright Zone, which is like the evil territory, I guess, she discovers that the bad guys are killing civilians, they're destroying towns just willy-nilly, and they're just kind of being general super evil people, right? Because
Right.
the bad guys really just don't care about that stuff. So Adora defects essentially to the other side.
Mhm.
And this causes a rift between her best friend, Catra, who is like her squad teammate before the series. So you kind of get this really interesting relationship between Adora and her new friends, and then also Adora versus Catra, who is her like old best friend.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of like implied romantic tension between those two characters,
Good.
which is kind of funny. Like, you know, I would think it's unintentional if I didn't feel like it was intentional. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
like I could potentially I could have seen it being like just a consequence of how it was set up, but it the way that, like all of the trappings of the show make it feel intentional. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And you know, and especially like the climate we're in, you know, in terms of gay representation and stuff in media, it feels like it was a very intentional decision to make those characters basically lesbians but not lesbians. You know what I mean?
Right, but it's like, why are they still afraid to do it anyway? Like, why are they still afraid of that?
I think it's because the show is presented as a children's show still.
Sure, but so is Steven Universe, and they aren't afraid of that at all. They're like the only show I can think of that isn't afraid to actually touch on it.
I'm not
swear,
convinced.
there was another one recently that I want.
I
Was
wouldn't.
it OKKO?
I don't think it was a OKKO. I think that had some weird romantic tension.
The thing is, I think that I would liken the show closer to something like My Little Pony than something to Steven Universe in terms of where it sits in its being rebooted. It feels like a very girly property rebooted into also a pretty girly but more modern thing.
But general
Whereas,
appeal property.
Yeah, where Steven Universe, while it has a lot of female characters in it, feels more grounded in being a generalist show.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it and I think the target age demographic is slightly lower than Steven Universe as well.
Okay.
So it doesn't. I don't know. It's not like it's a super children's show, but it doesn't feel as. At least so far, it doesn't feel like the plot lines that they've really been trying to explore has been as mature as some of the stuff in Steven Universe's like back end.
Right.
And I think that's probably the biggest fault of the show is that it's having trouble finding its footing in terms of how it wants to explore their characters yet. Because it, like, in terms of Adora's relationship with Catra, that's easily, like, the strongest part of the show. But there's a lot of other stuff in there that's, like, feels kind of bland. There are, like, 3 other princess characters, and then 2 who are, like, also there. 3 of them have their own episodes, and 2 of them are like they show up in the last episode, and we're like, you forgot about us.
Right.
Actually,
there's 4 princesses now that I think of it, not counting
I'm thinking
Glimmer.
about it. What it might be is like, it might just be like the creators sort of like trying to play it easy and safe for season 1, give you all of these characters, and then maybe they'll ramp it up as the seasons go along.
It really
they're trying
feels
to,
that way.
you know. Yeah.
You know, especially with it being a Netflix exclusive show, like you can't blame it on corporate meddling. Like with Universe, like with Steven Universe, the only way they get away with it is because Rebecca Sugar's like, okay, well, everybody likes this show, and the gyms are rocks, so they don't have genders.
Steven Universe is really
like, okay.
Steven Universe is really like, because of the corporate nature of Cartoon Network, Steven Universe had to have been a push and pull of that show.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like it, but it feels like they're trying to figure themselves out still.
Right.
But they clearly left stuff, because part of the thing is they essentially announced that there's like a certain number of princesses that they have to unite.
Okay.
So there is like a clear future goal there,
Yeah.
but they introduce like 4 or 5 princesses or something in the series, so it seems like there's gonna be more of that in the future. I just hope that they do better characterization of some of the characters, because a lot of them are kind of two-dimensional.
Right.
And it's weird to say that, because Adora's relationship with Catra is so interesting and so like well developed and well thought out that it's like comparing it to like Adora's relationship with the one who has plant powers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even remember the character's name. Like, that seems so transparent and just flat and two-dimensional. So I hope that like it I don't know. I think it suffers from what they focus on in the series isn't the same thing as what the characters are doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
The overall plot isn't where the focus is. It feels like the focus is in Adora's relationships with a couple specific characters, you know, which is fine. But I think that in order to become more successful, like other shows that are similar to it, like Star Versus and even My Little Pony and Steven Universe, they really have to kind of step it up a little bit. That being said, it is season 1, so I think that some of this will be ironed out. Like all of those shows I listed, I don't think the first season is their strongest season either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Like, look at Star Versus. When it was trying to figure itself out, like, that's why I didn't watch it for a little while, but as it's gone along, it has just got better and better.
Yeah, I feel like season 1 of Star Versus was pretty forgettable. I watched it because I found it generally entertaining, but it wasn't until season 2 that I was going, okay, guys, for real though, we need to start watching this because it's really good. This show, I really would recommend it to a lot of people, but none of the episodes are skippable. None of them are filler, but some of them feel mediocre. And it's not that any of them are like bad episodes. It's just there are several episodes that are not particularly good either, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not until some of the later episodes that it really earns its keep, kind of.
Right.
But I feel, yeah, in a weird way, I would almost compare this game or this show to older Cartoon Network shows, or not even Cartoon Network. Like, remember Xiaolin Showdown?
Oh yeah.
I feel like it seems similar to that in a way. In that early seasons were kind of two-dimensional as you were exploring these kind of very almost two-dimensional characters, but over time it really built, and the interrelationships between the characters got stronger. I feel like that's where we're at now with the first season of She-Ra. And that's why I say 26 episodes would have been better, because there are several episodes where they introduce a new character and then stop talking about him for a while. Later on, there's more ensemble episodes where they have those characters come back, but the episodes focusing on the individual characters felt weaker. One of my favorite episodes actually is one of the episodes that features a new character, but she's basically not even in that episode, which is silly.
Right.
Like, there's an ice character, or a character with ice powers, right? And the episode isn't about her, it's about Adora and Catra at the Ice Princess's, like, place.
Right.
So, it's... Even though that character was introduced in that episode, like, you don't really get a sense of who that character is in relationship to Adora. Not really, you know?
Yeah.
So, at the same time, though, and I know that this is brought over from the old series, so it's not even like this is a new thing, but I really appreciate... I find it really interesting how they've taken a character who thought she was good on the bad side and brought her to being a good character, figuring things out. It feels like a more successful implementation of Finn from Star Wars.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. You know? Because I feel like
Yeah.
Finn's story arc was good in Force Awakens and then wasn't very good at all in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Finn was probably the worst part of The Last Jedi.
Like,
So-
I will actively defend certain parts of The Last Jedi. That's not one of them.
Yeah,
but like
I
that
really
subplot
loved-
was kind of bad.
I really loved The Last Jedi, but I don't even think about any of the parts Finn was in as being what I
Yeah.
liked about that movie. Like he could have just not been in the movie and I wouldn't have cared. So
like that hour and a half that was Kylo Ren, Rey, and Luke. If that was the whole movie, then it'd be fucking fantastic.
it probably should have been.
It
I don't know.
It definitely should have been.
Just leave Finn in a coma for the whole
and maybe
movie. I don't know.
Maybe you've just ended it like at that like rupture point where fucking Rey is trying to make the choice as to whether or not she's going to go over to the dark side. Just leave it a little bit ambiguous, and then move on to the next movie. There were a couple problems, but overall, I still do think it was like the good personally outweighed the bad for me.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, She-Ra. Like I don't think enough media does that kind of thing that shows like individual people on the bad side, like, can have the perspective that they are the good guys. And I think She-Ra does that really well in a nuanced way, other than like it doesn't feel like ham-fisted. Yeah, it doesn't seem dumb or ham-fisted. It feels like she didn't want to believe it, and then like as she received more and more evidence, she changed her mind and still felt conflicted about leaving people on the other side like Catra. She like a lot of the season is about her trying to convince Catra to leave the Horde too. So I really think it's worth watching, especially since I didn't feel like it was that long, and even the episodes that weren't as good were interesting and did character building, so they weren't skippable, even if the overall plot of the episode was like whatever. It's like an excuse for She-Ra to hit things in places. So I don't know. But I think the good parts of She-Ra really outweigh the bad parts of it, so I really do recommend it.
And that's extra good to hear, especially because the other one that I was excited for that was announced at the same time, Sabrina, turned out to be such a flop.
Yeah, coming out of... So I watched both of these because I was excited for both when we watched the trailers earlier.
Yeah.
And having watched both of these series together now, She-Ra just was more successful at what it was trying to do, whereas Sabrina was an interesting concept that they just fell down on, it felt like. So that's really unfortunate, but it's good. I feel like She-Ra. Go ahead.
I actually really liked He-Man when I was a kid, like the He-Man cartoon. Like, I have really good memories of that. Like, I'd watch it with my dad, and my dad's like, "Since when did He-Man get tanks?" And
I liked the 2000s reboot of He-Man.
Oh fuck, I remember that. I blanked that from my mind until you like even brought it up. I remember that existing.
But yeah, I was never particularly interested in either of these shows when I was a kid.
I think it was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was the 2000 one, right? Yeah, that was the one I watched.
I think the old one also had that title. I think they both had the same title, except one was in the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure though. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I think I definitely think She-Ra is worth watching.
But anyway, I never watched She-Ra, but I know it's supposed to be is that now? I think I may have asked you this earlier. I don't even remember if it was on the podcast, but is this supposed to be is this the same universe as the He-Man universe?
Yes.
Is there any?
Yes.
Okay, but is that like an overall canon, or is that it's called attention to in the show?
So when she turns into She-Ra, she says, "For the honor of Grayskull."
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not that there are direct ties, but there's a lot of indirect canon that exists in both. So it's not they haven't directly said there is a He-Man too.
Right.
But
presumably
there is. I think eventually
it would have implied He-Man somewhere.
I think eventually He-Man may show up, but they haven't confirmed or said anything about it.
It wouldn't necessarily be like Prince Adam or something, because the sword is what turns you into He-Man, right? Or She-Ra.
It could. I mean, Prince
I don't
Adam
know.
could show up, but I don't know.
I don't know anything about the old She-Ra. I don't know if either of you do, but is this She-Ra the same human being
Yes.
as the old She-Ra?
It is not. It is not like a pseudo sequel reboot. It is an actual reboot. Like Adora is a character. Like the name, the
Adora
character Adora is the same Adora.
Yeah.
Like there are a line of She-Ras. There are multiple She-Ras in this universe, and Adora is the most recent She-Ra. But Adora is the Adora.
Is the
and
She-Ra
Catra
that was introduced as She-Ra.
Yeah, and Catra was in both, and Scorpio was in both, and Hordak was in both, who is a character I've never mentioned until now. Bo was in both, and actually they made him black in the new one, which is kind of whatever.
In the new one or the old one?
He's black in the new one.
In the old one, he was one of the village people, so it's not the 70s anymore.
In the old one, he was a man with a handlebar mustache, a white man with a handlebar mustache.
Ah, yes, exactly. I'm seeing the comparison. These are two completely different characters. In fact, I would say in the new one, Bo actually looks like a lesbian as opposed to a homosexual man.
Well, he's a man.
I know, but he looks like a lesbian.
Okay.
I mean, the other guy looked gay too. So what?
I mean, he did. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not
gay
saying
in a less overtly masculine
I'm not
way,
saying
right?
it's any bad thing, right? But I'm just saying,
listen, man. Listen, macho man. I want to be.
He turned. You know,
he turned man.
He turned into a gay hunk man into a twink man.
Yeah, that
is basically what happened. But
the Bo from the old show and the Bo from the new show are in a wonderful relationship, and I support them.
They both had hearts on their armor, so
all right.
They work hard and they play hard.
In a way, the new Bo actually makes a bit more sense because he has like a Cupid vibe going on, whereas the other one was just like hyper masculine man, but he has hearts.
He has a heart on his chest. I mean, that's the hyper masculine men. They always in the cartoons they wear the heart boxers.
Yeah,
I mean, this does take place in the He-Man universe, so it does make sense that the other Bo would be like that.
Yeah, and they're not. Yeah, I don't know. I really do enjoy it, and I actually might rewatch it because I feel like there are things that I would see in a second watching that I missed in the first one. But I may or may not, because some of the episodes are kind of
worth watching the first time, but you wouldn't rewatch them.
I mean, I would if I committed to a rewatch, I would rewatch all of them. But there are episodes I'm less excited to rewatch, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I really hope that this gets more. This gets more seasons. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of buzz for it. But I think that people are watching it a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It seems like it's one of those silent shows where people are watching it. Like I think the ratings are probably good for it.
Yeah.
Right.
That being said, I don't know why it's not being talked about in the same way as something like Steven Universe was, even when that came out. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
but it might ramp up. We'll see.
It might just be because it's a Netflix thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's a little different with the Netflix thing because people can watch it at their own pace, whereas with like a new Steven Bomb comes out, people are like, "The new Steven Bomb's out! We're watching it right now. It just came out."
It's
whereas
three 15-minute episodes. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
People are gonna watch this at their own pace.
It might be one of those things that ramps up over time, too, as word of mouth spreads, because I think She-Ra's like a reboot that nobody particularly asked for.
Yeah.
But I think that it's good. So.
I think that it would be... it's interesting, because I like I said, I like He-Man. I feel like people who like He-Man would probably, at this point, be willing to give She-Ra a shot.
Especially if they're willing to give Steven Universe a shot. Like, I feel like if you liked He-Man and you watch Steven Universe, this probably makes sense. So so we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that the next season has a little bit more focus, but I do really enjoy it. So, plus it would be fun to see some of the He-Man characters. Like, could you imagine Skeletor existing? I would love that.
Yes.
I don't care. I don't care their take about Skeletor. I just want him to be there too.
Who doesn't? Everybody loves Skeletor.
Oh, and for reference, Adora and Prince Adam are long lost siblings in the old canon. So there is a connection there, by the way.
Okay.
It's not like it's not like She-Ra is the spin-off that came out of complete nowhere. The character is supposed to be related to them or He-Man by blood. So and you get the sense that, like, Adora is also an orphan in this, but you definitely do get the sense that, like, she is probably someone important, but she doesn't know it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, so that's She-Ra. Why don't we move to Wreck-It Ralph now?
Okay. This is Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet, right?
Yes.
I saw the previews for it. It looked pretty good, and I should probably go see it with my mom. That's who I saw the first Wreck-It Ralph with, and she loved it. And she was like, I don't want to see a stupid cartoon.
You had to talk her into it, and then you ended up liking it. So, Wreck-It Ralph 2 is also very good, but
Okay.
I liked the first one better because it felt more emotionally impactful.
Okay.
I still think back to the scene where Wreck-It Ralph in the first movie was kind of falling down, and he had that inner monologue about that was a callback to something that happened earlier.
I am bad, and that's I'm bad, and that's good,
right?
Or something.
And that scene is such a memorable scene.
Yeah.
That, like, I still think about it all the time. Like, I think about that scene almost more than the rest of the movie. This movie really didn't have a moment like that, which is a shame. Because while I think it's a good sequel, I just don't think it's a better sequel than the first one. Because that one scene in particular pushed or, like, raised that movie up by a lot for me. And it's not to say that scene would make sense out of context, but you know what I mean? Like, that was such a good crystallization of that movie that I don't think that this movie has anything like that. In a way, this movie is a better version of Ready Player One.
That's what I was thinking when I saw the previews for it. I was like the particular preview I saw was like he was like going through the internet and he like kept getting all the names wrong. Like he saw the Google logo and he's like, well, now we know where we want to go if we ever need goggles. And so like, and I was like, those like 3 jokes they put in the trailer all made me laugh. And I was like,
I feel like Wreck-It Ralph 2 has the same energy as Ready Player One did in its background. In that, like, there were all these like subtle jokes about slightly alternate version of apps, and then but also they called like attention, hey, there's YouTube, there's Twitter, and there's
anybody that was okay with them using their real name.
Right. Though they have alternative versions of apps so that they don't bother like because one of the things that they do is they spend a lot of time in a not YouTube clone. So there's like this one of the major locations in the show is I think it's called BuzzTube, which is like a weird mixture between BuzzFeed and YouTube that makes sense in a really funny kind of way.
Okay, yeah.
It like I think really the difference between Ready Player One and Ralph Breaks the Internet is that Ralph Breaks the Internet feels like all of the background stuff is set dressing, whereas Ready Player One feels like a lot of the background was the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Because the goals and the way the plot is moved forward in Wreck-It Ralph 2 feels more like they are doing something, but they happen to be in the internet, right? And there are places in the internet that they have to go for certain reasons, but it has nothing to do with the internet exactly. It's just that's where they're at. Whereas it felt like Ready Player One was very much integrated into what they were doing. The whole thing was like them playing the game. That being said, I didn't hate Ready Player One. I thought it was a decently fun thing to watch, even if it was I didn't think it was this great thing. I thought it was a decently fun thing to watch. Whereas Wreck-It Ralph 2 felt very much like a Wreck-It Ralph movie, but they were on the internet. and a lot of what they were doing was playing like internet games, whereas
because Wreck-It Ralph is
from a video game, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like Ready Player One was this weird MMO kind of thing, so it simplified things in certain ways that were dumb, but other things were kind of cool in how it was presented. Whereas Wreck-It Ralph was very much like it had the energy of the first one, but it also was just at the internet, and it didn't feel like the internet was the point of the movie. It felt like the setting of the movie.
Right.
So do they have like all those like kind of cool cameos of other characters? Because I know that there were a lot of characters like the devil from Dungeon Keeper, Guile, and Sonic were there in the first one.
So
but, like, they weren't really contributors to the plot. They were there for scenes that
there are a lot of the ones who are there again in the last one. Like there's a scene where Sonic is talking to Wreck-It Ralph, and actually is an important thing that happens is Sonic tells tells Ralph about what Wi-Fi is, essentially, and what the internet is.
I mean, Sonic would know.
Yeah, right. I love that they didn't mention it, though. You know what I mean? Like, if you knew about what Sonic is on the internet, it's kind of a funny joke for you, but they don't lampshade it.
They don't call attention to it. The joke is there. They don't like
the joke is there if you know the joke, but if you don't know the joke, it's just Sonic is telling him.
It's there. I do like that. That is really good.
Whereas it feels like if it was Ready Player One, they would have lampshaded it. You know what I mean?
They would have been like, "Oh, trust me, I know a lot about the internet."
Yes, something like that. So I thought that was good. But additionally, there are other, like, they go to like the Disney website for a while, and some of this is in the trailer. But Penelope meets a bunch of the Disney princesses, and that's actually like an important plot point. Actually,
that was one of the.
So it feels
was like the very first trailer for it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it feels like all of the like stuff, like it never feels like they go to a place because that's where they want
they want to. They don't feel like they want to show off that place.
Yeah, it's not like they go anywhere because they want to make references to it. It's like at least the in-universe explanation for why she goes to a Disney place makes sense. It's not like it doesn't feel shoehorned. It feels like that is a logical place to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really enjoy it. I didn't like it as much as the first one, but I feel like it really earns having a sequel, I guess.
Right.
Even if I think the conclusion of the movie was kind of silly in a way. It didn't detract from it, but I felt like they didn't.
So, is it silly and like, oh well, that left a lot of stuff unresolved, or is it silly and like, oh, that's how you're resolving this? Or...
It was more like, why are you resolving it this way when there's a very obvious better way to resolve it? But like, I don't want to spoil it because it's pointless. But it feels like they could have. They created a problem that didn't need to be a problem in a way. Like the way that they ended the movie was kind of like pointless. Like there's no reason to end it like that. But they did, I guess, and it's fine.
It didn't destroy the movie that it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't destroy the movie. It was just like, why?
So like, I actually, it's been a long time since I've seen Wreck-It Ralph. How did they get between game machines in the first place?
They went
Uh,
to
it
the
was,
Surge Protector.
Yeah, the
Ah,
Surge
okay.
Protector,
And the
which
Surge
is like
Protector
a train
was like-
station.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they
okay.
still have the same thing, except now a Wi-Fi router is plugged into the Surge Protector.
Okay,
so
that
that's
makes sense.
why they have access to the
Yeah,
internet now.
I kind of assumed that was how they got access to the internet. I'm
And
like,
they're-
did they plug an Ethernet cable into Fix It Felix or?
Yeah. And there were points in time where it was like, there were things that begs the question in it. Like, they kind of talk about how, Ralph can't be away from his game because then people will be like, where's Ralph in the thing? But at the same time, it's like, they also disappear from the game from like 48 hours. or no, actually I think it's literally 72 hours they're not in the game.
Well,
so
don't
it's
they
like,
just
why?
Don't they just put an out? Didn't they just put an out of order sign on it in the first game?
Yeah.
They assumed it was like a software bug, and they put an out of order sign on it until.
But then that was one of the main conflicts of the first game was they put an out of order sign on, and if it was out of order for too long, it's gonna get moved out of the arcade.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, why is Ralph just not there for 3 days?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Is
it like?
and they never call attention to it, and they never talk about it, and it's like a plot point that doesn't exist. That you like, if you think about it, it's like, but
if you remember from the first,
wouldn't that be a problem? And it just never is. So I don't know.
Maybe Wreck-It Ralph just got less popular. Fix It Felix just got less popular.
I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's whatever. It kind of doesn't matter. It's like one of those nitpicks that if you're thinking about it too much, you'll care. But if you, but they never draw attention to it in the movie, so it doesn't matter to the plot. And there's like a couple different points in time in that movie where it's like, nah. Especially the ending, which is what I was kind of saying. It's the same kind of deal. It's like,
yeah.
It's like there was a plot point there that should have been there, but didn't need to be.
Right.
So it's not there.
I
don't know.
This is a very specific question, but is Donkey Kong ever in the movie?
No.
Okay.
I don't think a Mario character is in the movie.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph is obviously just like it's the same video game or Fix It Felix is obviously the same video game as Donkey Kong. So
I thought we came to the conclusion that Wreck-It Ralph was a real arcade cabinet.
No, we came to the conclusion that it was never a real arcade cabinet.
Okay, maybe it was going around that one existed, but
maybe
there is
maybe
an
it was
arcade cabinet that does exist for Fix It Felix because with Wreck-It Ralph, Disney did release a Fix It Felix game.
Right.
Maybe that was a hoax that
somebody
an old Wreck-It Ralph existed.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
but
know.
it wouldn't either way it wouldn't be surprising because even if the game was literally just Fix It Felix Jr. was the same game as Donkey Kong, then people did that all the time back in the day.
Oh no, it was a real
the same
cabinet.
game.
In 1982, it came out, Fix It Felix Jr. by Toby Comey.
Really?
Oh wait, no.
Really?
Oh wait, no, it didn't exist.
Yeah, that's
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that
you're
was
right.
that's the story in the video.
Yeah,
game.
the way
It was
that
in
it's
the 80s.
the way that it was shown here is confusing. Anyway,
right.
Yeah, so I guess it didn't really exist. It was always just an homage to Donkey Kong, which is fine.
Yeah.
No, there are no Nintendo characters in it at all.
Okay, that's understandable.
There are Capcom characters like Sonic and is Sonic Capcom? No, Sonic's Sega.
Sonic
So yeah, there's Sega characters and there's Capcom characters because there's Street Fighter characters in it.
Right.
Probably like shit tons of Namco characters in it because arcade.
Yeah, there's Pac-Man. And there's Tapper. Yeah. They talk about Tapper a lot in the movie.
I mean, he was in the first movie.
All right. Here's what I want to know. Which of the 5 DLC characters for Smash is Wreck-It Ralph going to be?
Oh, that'd be funny.
The first? Is he going to be the third? We'll
if
have to wait and see.
If anything, there was more Star Wars and Disney in it than anything else.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Because they go to the Disney place.
Right.
And that's the most cameos.
Okay.
Nick from Zootopia's in it.
Oh God, yes.
Very briefly.
Very briefly, sure.
But I think if you have seen the GIF of Nick out like before seeing the movie, that is the extent of his cameo. There are no other Zootopia cameos. So,
oh well.
But yeah, so I thought it was really good. If you had to pick one to watch, I would recommend the first one. But the sequel is good enough. It's not like one of those sequels that some sequels are like better than the first one in a weird way. But I think the first one was good enough that the second one, I'm not surprised that it didn't live up to the first one, and it's not a bad movie by any stretch, but it feels like you can poke holes into it if you tried. So,
yeah.
But it's good enough. Also, there's 2 after credit scenes in the movie that I think are worth watching.
Oh yeah, I've seen one of them and I thought it was hilarious, and I'm glad it exists.
Okay, that's fair. I don't.
Is it?
I probably
the one?
Actually am going to see this one. So
is it the musical one?
Yes.
Okay, there is another one that is a mid credit scene. That is also good. So
good.
I definitely recommend
I probably
watching.
am going to see this one. So
Okay.
Like this is I don't see a lot of movies. This is probably one that I'm going to go out of my way to see, especially because I have somebody that's particularly interested in it or would be particularly interested in it to see it with. So
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
still trying to convince some of my friends to go see Detective Pikachu with me though when it comes out.
So
nobody wants to see it.
This might be a bar. I basically cry in most movies I watch. I did not cry in this movie. So that probably tells you something. It is not emotionally impactful enough to even make me tear up, and I tear up in like most movies. So it's fun. It's fun to watch, but it is not emotionally impactful. So I don't think it's going to be super memorable in the future. Unless you kind of couple it with the first Wreck-It Ralph.
Right.
So if you think of Wreck-It Ralph as the property, then it's like more Wreck-It Ralph. But it isn't like, it doesn't really, it's not that it doesn't stand up on its own, but it's not as good as the first one. So
right.
Whereas Kung Fu Panda, I think of Kung Fu Panda 2 way more than the first one for sort of a number of reasons.
Was Kung Fu Panda 2 the one where they had to fight the evil flamingo man, or was that 3? Okay.
It was a peacock, but yes.
Yeah, it was a peacock, but yes.
What happened in Kung Fu Panda 3?
Kung Fu Panda 3
Dude came back from the underworld, and
also he met his parents.
Yeah, and also he met his parents.
Was Kung Fu Panda 3 the one where he was like out of work and he had to teach a school how to play music?
Yes.
No. that was Kung Fu Panda 0.
Oh,
no.
Right,
yeah, that was David Linklater's film Boyhood.
Oh yes, Boyhood.
Yes.
It took 12 years to make.
I feel like School of Rock is actually Tenacious D 0.
Yeah.
It takes place in the Tenacious D extended universe.
Yeah.
Making another Tenacious D movie. I'm excited.
So yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. I did enjoy it. I definitely would recommend it. But
recommend it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'll talk about this with you guys privately once you've seen it.
Podcast is over. Okay, yeah.
Well, no, not. Once you've seen it.
But once we've seen it.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
There's a scene that I think is funny to talk about, but there's no point to talk about. Like, I don't want to spoil it, and there's kind of no point. It's like, it wouldn't be funny if you didn't see it, so.
Okay.
Right. Yes, and that is the games and movies we've watched this week, so we'll head to a break here in a minute.
Sounds good.
What time are we thinking? What time is it? How about 5:25? That's a little over 5 minutes.
That'll work for me.
Yeah.
That's just enough to like grab a drink and something.
Okay.
That's all I need.
All right, we will be back in a little bit. All right, we're back.
Yes.
Yay.
Sorry, we're a little bit late, but I was stuffing chips into my face, so you know how it goes.
I know how it goes. Trust me.
So for the second half of the show, we're going to talk about gaming and movie news. Of which there is some this time. Not a lot, but some.
Like a whole 7.
there's a whole four,
Whole
two.
two things to talk about.
Oh boy.
So, I don't know. Where do you want to start? I don't care.
Shit. Let's just do movies first. I always feel like we do movies first, so why the fuck not?
Yeah.
So on Black Friday, they put out the Lego Movie for free on YouTube. By which I mean, if you watch like the trailer for the Lego Movie 2, an ad would appear before that, and it would just be the entirety of the Lego Movie.
Oh,
I think I got it for free once.
that's funny.
Because I think or maybe I bought it. I think I already own Lego Movie. So I think I just own it on YouTube, so I don't think I needed to watch the ads version. But
oh yeah, but if you didn't own it and haven't seen it, you could have watched it on Thursday. It's not Thursday no matter what anymore, but you could have. Well, Friday.
So why is that even in our news? That seems odd, but whatever.
Yeah, because it was neat. I'm glad that a film studio was willing to give out one of their films for free. They usually don't do that. Anyway, largest Thanksgiving box office ever, which is a little weird.
That's not weird to me, because
I suppose Wreck-It Ralph came out, but like, what else?
Creed 2.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So
And
it
the
was like,
Grinch.
yeah,
the one too.
the Grinch is still there, yeah. And then the Fantastic Beasts thing has been there. And Bohemian Rhapsody is still there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And also the new Robin Hood movie came out, but it didn't make that much money. Oh, and Widows. I'm really excited for that one.
You know, the coolest thing about the Robin Hood movie has been the behind the scenes stuff of Edgerton training with that really cool bow guy.
See,
right.
but the worst thing about the Robin Hood movies is that they're not all furries.
Well, no. I don't know. I feel like, based on some of the reviews here, I'm thinking that there are other very bad things about the Robin Hood movie.
Oh.
Yeah, like the plot and the writing.
Oh.
So,
how do you fuck up the plot of Robin Hood?
By apparently making it turbo edgy and
Yes.
modernizing, but making it dumb as hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say making it dark and edgy.
How do you fuck up the plot of classic fables? How can you be so stupid?
Well, here's the thing about classic fables. Here's the thing about classic fables. You have to change it enough to make it worth watching again, but you also have to not change it so much that it's dumb. So it is a balance to strike. What?
Remember the Kurt Russell Robin Hood movie that came out like Deadass might have been 10 years ago? Where it ended with like a gigantic fucking battle.
Look, there are exactly 3 Robin Hood movies that I remember. I remember Disney's Robin Hood, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and the episode of Star Trek where Q sends Picard to Robin Hood.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking, so what was the other one?
I was gonna say, wasn't there a Robin Hood with Robin Williams? But then I realized I was thinking of Hook, not Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fucking A. Remember back in the fucking like 2000s when after the Lord of the Rings were really popular, they released a ton of fucking like terrible fantasy movies that essentially looked at the Lord of the Rings like someone who would look at Apocalypse Now and say like, "Wow, Vietnam was badass."
Will you sit down or move, Kat?
Anyway, that's all that I have to say about that. Yeah.
Like,
anyway,
here's a question. They've been remaking all of those, like, Jungle Book and Dumbo is coming out, and they keep remaking all of like live action versions of all of these classic animated movies. Do you think they're gonna do that with the Robin Hood and make them like animals, or do you think they're gonna make a human version of that classic Robin Hood?
Well,
what do you think they're gonna do with that?
Well, they're doing on Animals Lion King again.
Oh, that's right. I was gonna say, because in all of the movies they've rebooted, they've done purely
The Jungle Book, though.
Movies that contained human characters. Like, yes,
yeah.
the Jungle Book had a lot of CG animals, but Mowgli was the main character. So
and Dumbo is the same way.
In it. Yeah, but
although in reverse, actually, Dumbo is like the only animal.
Dumbo's
yeah.
So I could like, I don't know, like, and there have been no reboots with anthro character. Well, I guess Beauty and the Beast maybe, but like that's kind of a special case, right?
Yeah, so
Like-
I don't know, like, what would that even look like?
I'm not sure what it would be like. Yeah, like would the entire thing be CG? In which case, would it even be a live action reboot? It wouldn't be a live action reboot. It would just be a
Maybe they
CG.
would just do like a Disney animated thing and have it like a Zootopia or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
that too. Like, what if they just remade it and like?
But
Zootopia?
honestly, I don't know if that movie, because they're trying to go for like the big popular ones, and I don't ever think that one really was one of those.
I think it was more popular than Dumbo.
Yeah, it was definitely more popular than Dumbo.
I don't
Dumbo
know.
is
because
the
Dumbo
only-
was...
Dumbo is the only one that I actively didn't like. The only Disney. It's like the only Disney film that I can remember actively disliking Dumbo. So
Right.
I even liked Pinocchio better, and I didn't like Pinocchio that much.
Like I legitimately don't remember
Like
anything about Dumbo.
it just seems random what they're like rebooting. Okay, off the top of my head, I can think of The Lion King. They're rebooting. Snow White, no word on that. Little Mermaid, no word on that. Beauty and the Beast, they've done. Aladdin, no word. Jungle
they are
Book,
rebooting Aladdin.
They
I'm
are
pretty sure.
rebooting
They are
Aladdin.
rebooting
Yeah.
Aladdin. Okay,
Yeah.
well I didn't hear about that one, but that's
And
understandable.
Mulan.
Aladdin
I
and Mulan
didn't
are
know-
actually more recent too.
I didn't
That's
know about
interesting.
Mulan, but
Um,
I don't think I
but
think
yeah.
they're less recent than than you think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Mulan was like 2000.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but that was
Mulan
still
was
18
2000.
years ago.
Yeah, it's not like
That's-
Snow White
yeah,
where it
that's-
was made in the 60s.
Yeah. But like there's a whole bunch of them that they could do.
Even Lion King isn't that old,
Yeah.
really, by comparison.
Yeah. Yeah,
Compared to
something
Snow
like
White and
something
Beauty
like
and the Beast,
Ar-
but-
Aristocats was like 1968 or something.
Now that's one I can't see them remaking.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's interesting
Unless they get
though, is
desperate,
Aristocats does
they
have a
might.
lot of human characters, so that would be easier than something like Lion King, which has none.
Yeah, but Lion King was so immensely, hugely popular for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no way they're not gonna try to reboot that one.
And I love bringing this up every time Lion King comes up, but back in the fucking day, they thought the Pocahontas was going to be the huge one, and they sort of shoved
Yeah.
Lion King
Yeah,
to the
that's
side.
funny.
Oh boy!
They underestimated the power
And-
of
and then,
furries.
Michael,
And then I forget.
noted horrible man Michael Eisner makes another mistake. At
And
least
then
this
I-
one didn't cost him a shit ton of money.
And then I forgot who. No, actually, it made them a fuck ton of money because they spent
Yeah,
less.
exactly.
On, they spent less on Lion King and made more.
Yeah.
So, and then the guy who
95%
made
of
Lion
their
King,
budget-
the guy who made Lion King made a couple of other movies, including Hercules.
Yeah.
There was one more in there, another like really popular one because Hercules was kind of but there was like one that was like really popular.
Oh yeah, and Hercules was fantastic.
I don't remember which was the other one.
There was another one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What's the one that
Was
was,
it-
between Lion King and Hercules?
um
Well, whatever it was. So the same guy, or what, like the same team made those three movies, and then like the whole time he had been asking to make Treasure Planet, and they finally let him make Treasure Planet, and it was a fucking train wreck because of
Yeah.
how
Even
they
though
Even
it's
handled
because
it.
they didn't market it.
Yeah,
and
it's a
also forced them to
phenomenal
put that
movie,
terrible
but-
robot in it. In, like the last half. Even though they already had like specifically they already had like a fucking joke character man. Fuck, that's sad because
thought that
a lot
movie-
of Treasure Planet was great.
I thought
I
that
love
movie
it.
was okay. I liked it, but I could see why it didn't feel like a Disney movie. It felt like a DreamWorks movie.
A
yeah.
little bit, yeah.
The same thing with Atlantis, because while Atlantis was good, it also felt like a DreamWorks movie.
Yeah. That was in a really weird place where Disney was trying to shove it like 2D animation aside and really trying to focus on the 3D stuff with Pixar.
Speaking of Pixar,
Aladdin. No. Is it Aladdin? In between Hercules and
it might have been Aladdin.
yeah, I
May
think
have
it
been
was. I
Aladdin.
think it may have been Aladdin.
Because I knew it was a really popular one, but I didn't remember if it was Aladdin or not. But-
Actually, Aladdin was before the Lion King.
Yeah.
okay,
Huh.
then it couldn't have been Aladdin.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, whatever.
Strange.
It doesn't
Whatever.
matter.
Yeah, I get you.
But anyway, I was gonna say, so they had a couple trailers for Toy Story 4. How do you guys feel about that? Have you seen any of them?
I've seen the trailers and they're like teaser trailers.
They are teasers, but
so like I don't know. That is fucking.
I felt like
I have no opinion.
I felt like Toy Story 3 ended it in the perfect place, and I already didn't want Toy Story 3 when Toy Story 3 came out. So
Let me tell you about my opinion on Toy Story as a whole.
Okay, go on.
This
I love that sentence, by the way.
This sums up my entire opinion of Toy Story. Everything that I think about it. This year, my work did a costume contest where we all dressed up as Toy Story characters, and I was Stinky Pete.
Yeah.
That's what I think about Toy Story.
who's Stinky Pete?
Stinky
again?
Pete was a great character, though.
Stinky Pete was
He's
the
a fucking asshole. Fuck you, Stinky Pete.
the prospector who turned out to be who started the trend of Disney good guy
Disney.
turns bad, or Pixar good guy.
Pixar good guy turns bad guy. Yeah.
I legitimately don't even remember who you're talking about.
Really?
The main villain in Toy Story 2.
Was Stinky Pete.
Okay, I had to look him up, and now that I see what he looks like, I remember him.
Yeah, my costume was great. I just wasn't fat
See,
enough.
I never really liked Toy Story that much. Yeah, I didn't think they were bad. I just didn't like them.
Right.
And I remember liking 2 better than 1.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing 3 when I was an adult. So
Yeah.
and by then I was like, I don't need Toy Story 3. But I was like, okay, you know, at least with Toy Story 3 they brought the series to like a conclusion that made sense.
Yeah.
And then now they're having a 4th one and I don't understand.
Yeah. It's
And like
money.
it seems like the reveal part of it is that they have a spork with pipe cleaners as a new toy.
Huh.
And like apparently there's now like toys that are crafts. So I don't know, that's like an angle I guess they haven't tackled, but I feel like it kind of ruins the satisfying conclusion to the series.
Yeah. You know, money.
Yeah, but
Thanks,
Pixar should
Disney.
work on something else. I feel like
should.
Pixar kind of hasn't been good lately.
Yeah.
with their original stuff, they've done pretty good. I mean, you know, they may have sort of stolen those ideas, which is a little sketchy.
Because Incredibles 2 was pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Incredibles
But
2
even
was
then,
pretty
it
good.
wasn't
Coco was
like-
really good. And so was Inside Out.
I thought Inside Out was Disney animation.
Wasn't it? Oh,
Inside Out was Pixar.
yeah, Pixar's owned by Disney, so it gets murky. Like it's
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, but
I was gonna say, what about Zootopia? But Zootopia's just Disney.
Disney
that one's
animation,
definitely
yeah.
Disney animation, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Pixar. Interesting.
Yeah, Inside Out. I didn't like Inside Out that much, but I know
Really?
that's not
I loved Inside
that's
Out.
not
but
like
I
a shared
yeah.
opinion. I know. I it just
Yeah.
didn't appeal to me.
right.
I
Understand.
thought there were good things about it, but I didn't.
It
I
took
don't
me
know.
like 6 years
It
to
seemed
learn
really-
that Joy.
It seemed really predictable to me, but
It took me 6 years to learn that Joy was not actually voiced by Ellen DeGeneres.
oh, Ratatouille.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, that was one of Brad Bird's.
I love Ratatouille. That's probably
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite Pixar movie.
Did you
now
call
that I'm
him
looking at it.
Rat Birds?
No, I called him Brad Bird.
Pretty sure you didn't say a B.
There's also Up.
Rad exclamation point. Up is pretty good.
Up
Up's
is
pretty
okay.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
There's
I
Brave,
probably-
the worst Disney movie.
The worst Pixar. Yeah, man. Like,
was Tangled Pixar or Disney Animation?
no, it was
Disney.
Disney. Disney.
Disney
I think
Animation
Brave-
seems
I
to
think-
have this obsession with increasing their hair technology.
I
don't-
think-
don't they?
That's because of Brad Bird.
I don't know about that. Brave is the only Disney princess
That was a
that
Pixar
Pixar
princess.
did and
Yeah.
and was trash.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is what it is. What was the original topic?
The original topic was fucking
The
it made a lot
Thanksgiving
of money.
box office.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
Thanksgiving made a lot of money.
Well, actually, I moved into Toy Story, but never
Yeah.
Right.
changed the topic. But I was just curious about that, and we were trying to fill time because there's no news.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Understandable.
The next one is one of the things that I was talking about when I heard he was going to work on Pinocchio. Guillermo Del Toro is fucking campaigning to get thank you, Dendi. He is campaigning to get some of his old scripts that he had finished working on fucking made because Warner Brothers hated him so much and he had all of these great plans and they just didn't want him to do anything. But now that he's won an Oscar and can work for fucking anyone, A24, Netflix, this man's got some fucking prestige behind him more than before. He can fucking do these things that Warner Brothers wouldn't let him. Good. Thank you, Guillermo Del Toro.
What I have a question. Was Pacific Rim profitable?
No, it made less money than Grown Ups 2, which came out the same weekend.
Huh.
So
it did not. I think it made like a little bit of a profit, but not nearly enough for fucking Warner Brothers to be like, we want to keep working with you, Guillermo Del Toro. He had to go to Fox Searchlight.
I want to point out a couple of things.
It doubled its budget.
No, okay.
Really? Huh. So decent.
It made 400 million and
top
cost
the box
up
office.
to 200 million.
Yeah.
It didn't top the box office, so nobody gave a shit.
Oh,
it felt like a
was too
really
popular.
like bad weekend too.
I wonder if
It was
this budget...
it was the same time as Grown Ups 2, remember?
Yeah.
I wonder if this budget is counting marketing. Because if it's counting marketing, then that's good. If it's not, or if it's not counting marketing, then it's probably cost 400 million and made 411 million.
It's probably I think specifically that doesn't count marketing because specifically that's like not registered under the budget of the movie necessarily, right?
That's silly. I feel like it should be, but
I
don't know.
completely agree. I feel like it should be too.
I don't know. I feel like for Pacific Rim 1, they paid like $17 in marketing.
I saw stuff for
I
it.
didn't hear anything about Pacific Rim.
I
Like
don't know,
I knew
feel
it
like-
existed, but I didn't see it on I didn't see commercials for it, you know.
You don't watch TV.
I did at the time.
I feel like there were commercials for it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the only reason I knew about it was because I really like Guillermo Del Toro and was like, hey, he's making a fucking giant monster movie. Hell yeah.
I definitely
He hasn't
do.
done
I
anything
mean,
in years.
it had as much marketing as the sequel did.
Yeah.
Right.
Ugh.
And
Oh, boy.
I remember seeing banner ads all over the fucking place for Pacific Rim 2, so...
Mm-hmm. Rest in
Right.
peace.
Speaking of A24...
Oh, boy.
And this is like mentioned in I sort of like how this particular article mentions this. Like since fucking Filmstruck is dead, which is sad, it's okay because A24's library was uploaded to a different streaming service, Canopy.
Which is used by public libraries across the country.
Nice.
Which means
Yeah.
it basically means it's free.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, you can watch pretty much all of A24 is
It
like
doesn't have all of them. It's not quite the
Yeah.
selection, but it has all the big ones. All the ones
Yeah.
that you would like look for. Like it has Lobster, Moonlight, Ex
Ladybird.
Machina.
Killing of a Sacred Deer,
Yeah,
a ghost
Ladybird.
story. The
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
the
Ghost Story.
Witch. Swiss
Witch.
Army Man. Wow.
Yeah, A24 has been like they're the big indie studio, which is crazy, and they've held to their fucking credo of.
I wonder if
We're gonna
Good
make
Time
more
made it.
movies. Mhm.
I wonder if
Maybe,
Good Time made it.
maybe.
That was a good time.
Good time was good, and I liked it. But yeah, I am happy about this, and there's a bunch of movies you can go watch, and it's great, and they're great, good movies.
On
Thank
to
you, A24.
on to gaming news.
On to gaming.
All
That's
one
it
of
for
them.
movies. All one of them. That's not even
Uh,
technically a gaming news.
So
I don't think any of them are particularly notable, but we gotta have something.
so
Most of them aren't particularly gaming. There's like two.
Zelda Zelda producer hints that Skyward Sword might be coming to Switch.
Thank
Oh, boy.
goodness. Maybe I can actually play the only Zelda game I haven't played before.
Yeah, me too. Also, actually, I haven't played a bunch of them, but
I owned the console for that one.
I
but
want
just
Wind
didn't get
Waker.
it.
Damn it!
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring me Wind Waker.
You don't want.
Come
Wind
on, it
Waker.
was on Wii U. Bring it to fucking Switch already.
You don't want.
It was
Wind
on Wii U. Bring it to fucking Switch already, please.
You don't want Wind Waker.
I want Wind Waker.
You
don't
want
Wind Waker.
Sword.
You want
Zelda
you-
Sword.
You don't want Wind Waker. You want a big
make you
Majora's
big?
Mask.
I could get
You
Majora's
want
Mask.
to make a big N64.
Well, the thing is, I can get Majora's Mask on my 3DS. I can't get Wind Waker anywhere else.
Right.
That's why I want Wind Waker on Switch. Because I don't have a
Yeah.
GameCube or a Wii, so
Right.
or a Wii U.
Yeah.
Also, it wasn't on, or was it on GameCube?
No, it was
was
GameCube
on
and then it
GameCube.
was GameCube and then Wii U.
Yeah.
The one that was GameCube and Wii was Twilight Princess
Right.
because they came out simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, anyway,
Yeah.
so Skyward Sword, that one might be fun to replay. I wonder if they're
Yeah.
gonna keep all of the motion control stuff because the Switch can do it, but I don't know if
yeah,
they
the
want
Switch
to.
can do it pretty easily, but I don't know. Skyward Sword's like that was kind of the hook for that game when it came out. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but people hated it, so they could either
Yeah.
pull all that stuff out or make it optional or whatever, or they could
Yeah,
just
well,
put it up like that. I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure that the Switch has better motion tracking than even the Wii Motion Plus. So I don't know.
Yeah,
They might keep it.
I would kind of be surprised if they kept it, but
Yeah,
but I would not be upset because I'm actually sort of interested in motion control, even if I don't know. Anyway, moving
It's
on.
fun. One of the most one of the most fun games I ever played for my Wii was Red Steel 2. So like
One of the
But
most
then again, the
funs I
Wii-
had.
one of the most funs I had. Yeah, you know what I meant.
Yeah.
What about Boom Boom Blocks? That's what we need.
The hell is a boom boom block?
It was the weird. It was a puzzle game for the Wii. That was made. That like was the first game made by Steven Spielberg, which was fucking weird.
What?
It like
I think I remember this.
Boom Blocks. I'm pretty sure was like
You're fucking with me, right?
No, I remember this. I don't.
yeah. It
like-
was developed by EA in conjunction with Steven Spielberg,
Uh,
and it's like what? But
yeah.
but I don't know. It's like maybe Steven Spielberg came up with an idea for a game, and so he was like, "I want to make this." I don't know.
Sounds like Steven Spielberg. Okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, there
Um,
is even a label for a little while under EA called Spielberg Games.
With one game.
I don't know. There might have been more, but that's the one that I remember wanting to play. Actually, my friend had it, so that's why I remember it. But so moving on.
Yes, Nvidia's shares are at a 16-month low following the crash of Bitcoin. And the only reason I even put this in here is because I want to say, good. Maybe graphics card will be affordable to a reasonable human being again soon.
Well, they already were because even before this, people had it had gotten so expensive to mine that people started switching to I forget what the word is for it, but there's computers designed for Bitcoin mining.
Right.
Instead of
Instead of
graphics cards.
offloading to a GPU.
Yeah, it was like a graphics card specifically
sure it's just-
designed for it.
Right.
Or like a
So I'm-
box, because the goal was to reduce the amount of electricity costs as much as possible.
Mm.
So there's like I think it's called like an N6 or something, or it's like a acronym or something. But so it already kind of moved on past graphics cards, and they were already starting to go down in price. But
Yeah.
I mean, this hurts Nvidia's stock a little bit, but Nvidia was smart to not really double down onto it.
Yeah, they didn't go for it. They weren't like, buy the new 1060 Ti and mine Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is
Bitcoining.
probably gonna hurt AMD more because they came out with a few specific graphics cards for Bitcoin mining.
Bitcoin mining, yeah.
So I'm not sure.
But
Well,
again,
but who knows?
like in the end, it's cryptocurrency. You could see it go up in the next 4 minutes back to $6,000. Who knows?
Well,
Everybody's too fucking.
we're talking
One of the things about
we're
it,
talking about overall trends, but
Yeah.
and the overall trend is down right now. But
Yeah.
it's still a currency. It's still accepted by
Yeah.
places. So if anything, now is the time to buy cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
But
But yeah, the thing is, and the reason it's actually going so down as much is mostly just because of the fact that, like, as more types of Bitcoin have come out, the value of Bitcoin is sort of going down because there's not as much demand for Bitcoin specifically, even if it is still the biggest one.
right, but as each of those cryptocurrencies inevitably die within a month, Bitcoin will just go back up.
well, no, that was a global trend actually. All of the cryptocurrencies
Yeah.
took a hit because of Bitcoin, but and like the weird ones that are only open for a month, those don't actually hurt the market at all because
Yeah.
they aren't integrated enough. It's only the few big ones that actually matter anymore.
Right.
It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and like a handful of other ones, like Litecoin, I think.
Right.
But most of them don't matter. It's kind of like the central ones that matter, and even then, like,
Yeah.
I think what's really happening is this is a speculator market crash. This is the same thing that happened with like comic books. You know, people
Yeah.
started buying a bunch of comic books because they're like, oh, if you hold on to these comic books, they're gonna be worth something in someday. And then
Do you know
as
how
people
many
realized that wasn't gonna happen, it kind of like went poof. The same thing's happening with cryptocurrency. This is like a natural progression as people get less stupid about what it is. So
Yeah, this happens with it happens with a lot of stuff. I was gonna say, do you know how many fucking Beanie Babies I own?
do they all have the tag on it still?
Oh
That's
yeah, they
important.
all have the fucking tag on them. I never take that shit off.
You're
when I'm-
ruin the value of your Beanie Babies if you remove
When
the tag.
when I give that to my kids and they give those to their kids, let me tell you, oh, they're gonna be worth $4 maybe.
Shit.
Yeah,
dude.
so
Which
anybody
is
who
about
ever
half what I paid for them.
anybody who sees news like this and says, "Oh, Bitcoin is dead," it's like they don't understand what actually is happening. But it's good that Bitcoin has reached the point where graphics cards don't help them anymore. So graphics cards
Personally,
are
I
gonna
feel like
suck.
it's good that there are people who are like Bitcoin is dead, so that you can buy fucking graphics cards. when you
Yeah,
don't
that
have
was
access.
like my main point in posting the article. I'm glad that a midline graphics card is no longer $700 because
Yeah, fucking A.
like God, it's insane. It was insanity for a while there, and so this
Watching
this
them red fields flow, those angry motherfuckers. Watching that shit just brings joy to my heart. I'm sitting here like,
But
finally video games.
But Dalsson, now we'll never know if Bitcoin is improved by RTX on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, here's the thing about Fallout.
Oh boy,
All right.
what happened?
Just
So,
in case you thought we weren't going to talk about Fallout this episode.
Yeah, so Bethesda is to face a class action law. Okay, now this. Let me say this lawsuit has not started. There is one law firm talking about getting people together for it. But this article says that Bethesda is to face a class action lawsuit for not fulfilling Fallout 76 refunds. They point to reasons such as the game is completely unplayable due to its technical issues, and Fallout 70 or Bethesda is refusing to give refunds to people who have digitally downloaded the game or installed it from their disc. If you have the disc or a physical copy which you have not installed, they will issue you a refund, but they will not issue refunds for installed or downloaded games. Now, this is funny that I see this article because yesterday I was browsing Reddit and I saw a post on the Fallout subreddit from a law firm that says, please get in contact with us if Bethesda is refusing to issue you a refund for a digital download copy of Fallout 76 at this email and whatnot. I saw that yesterday and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. But now I guess they're bringing a class action lawsuit against Bethesda over it, which honestly, like, I think it's going a little overboard to file a lawsuit over this when you could just be like, can I talk to your manager then and get a refund? Because the customer always gets a refund. Like in every fucking service, the customer will always get a refund. It just depends on how high they're willing to take.
But that's the thing. Bethesda isn't though.
Yeah, they're not giving refunds. Yeah, but they said that they didn't want to put it on.
They're not giving refunds when you request a refund to their support, but then you go to their support and you say, okay, well then let me talk to somebody higher up. It's like But
Yeah,
I'm not
don't-
convinced. I'm not convinced this. Like
yeah,
that.
I'm pretty sure they're just not giving refunds, and that's more
there
of the
are
reason
people.
that they put their shit on Bethesda.net instead of Steam. They said it was. For updates.
I also agree. I think that that's the real reason they decided to put it on Bethesda.net instead of Steam. But I am saying that there is a
I don't
how
think
to
that's
get.
why.
That I'm saying that there is a how to get a refund guide out there that people are saying, yeah, this works. You just have to keep fighting. But going for a class action lawsuit is just as easy as continuing to fight because one way or another they'll get their refund, right? The more important thing is that it depends on where you're located, because if you're in the EU and Bethesda refuses you a refund, that is automatic grounds for a lawsuit. Like, you don't
Yeah.
even have to do anything. You could just call your consumer electronics board or whatever and be like, hey, they won't give me a refund, and the board will just do everything for you. You don't even have to think about it.
Well, that's probably
like-
why there's some
class
like
action
lawyers
lawsuit,
going up on Reddit and stuff looking for people because they're probably doing that in
Yeah.
certain territories.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, like, I honestly don't think that's why they did Bethesda.net for Fallout 76. I think it's actually because they were trying to push people into using Bethesda.net, and
Right.
it's just a consequence that it happened to be a game that nobody wants. I think that Bethesda legitimately thought that Fallout 76 was going to be more popular than it is.
Right.
And so they thought that they could leverage Fallout and bring people to Bethesda.net, but instead it kind of the opposite happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's my theory, though. I don't think
I think that you are completely right, though. Like for real, I do think that's what's up.
Yeah, because I don't think that this is a conspiracy because they didn't want Steam's refund policy.
It's just sort
Yeah.
of a it's sort of a
something else that
consequence of that.
But like, so here's the grounds that this
It was
lawsuit
essentially
being-
just a terrible, terrible marketing strategy that backfired on
well,
them.
Yeah.
here's the lawsuit here's the grounds for the lawsuit that is stated in the article is that there are players who have tried to receive a refund because the game's myriad of glitches have are giving them an unplayable experience. But the problem that I foresee with that is that unplayable is subjective. There aren't like any notable bugs in Fallout 76 or reproducible bugs in Fallout 76 that makes it so that you physically are incapable of playing the game. If you are
Well,
not
there
having
are server
fun
bugs
with the
and
game,
stuff.
that's true, but like that's an online game. The servers will go down for an hour, but like there aren't any reproducible
Well, there were some
bugs in-
people that couldn't even log into the game for a while, but that's normal server issue stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that I don't think that matters. In a way, I feel like that's splitting hairs because, yeah, unplayable is subjective, but really, Bethesda should just give fucking refunds.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like I think that it doesn't matter. Like a game, if you buy a game and it doesn't run well, you should be able to return it. It doesn't take long to figure out a game doesn't run well on your specific computer. Like,
right.
so Bethesda should just do this.
Yeah.
Like, lawsuit or not, like it independent of whether or not like people should be allowed to, sue them or whatever. Like I don't care about any of that. I just think from a principle point of view, like I just think that Bethesda should just give refunds. Like the fact that
I
they're
agree.
not
I
is
think
kind
And
of
especially with the
fucked.
price drop and everything.
But that's the thing. That's why people are requesting refunds, and it's not a price drop; it's a sale. They're requesting, like 90% of these people, or probably not 90, a lot of these people are requesting refunds so that they can get it refunded and immediately buy it at the sales price, which is not how
I'm not
sales
totally
often work.
sure about that.
No, I've seen people talking about it. Look,
I think that there are a large number of people who want to do that, but I think there's also a lot of
number
people who do want
to
refunds.
refund it so that they can, not play it ever again.
Right, yeah.
Because I think it is true that a lot of people are unhappy with it.
Other
yeah.
people want to refund the game so that they can just wait for more patches that make the game more stable and add more content, which I think is also totally fair. But it's just like there's the sales price shouldn't be a factor in it, right? If this were like a legitimate price drop, then like that's really shitty. You get kind of burned. But like if you buy something day one, you shouldn't be entitled to a refund just because you want the sale price. Like you bought it day one before hearing anything about it. Like just
I think it depends.
Just suck it up.
I think it depends, and there's kind of precedent for this because of how Steam's thing works. Like you can get the difference refunded on Steam. Well, you have to like refund it and then buy it again, but
yeah, it has to be a game you've purchased within 2 weeks,
right?
But...
and you have to have played under a certain number of hours with it. I think that basically anybody playing Fallout 76 at all, probably, even if they were using Steam, probably would have aged themselves out of being able to get a refund anyway. So I think a lot of, like, from Bethesda's perspective, I can kind of see how they might not want to give refunds to people who have sunk 80 hours into it in a week. Because it feels like they've played a significant amount of the game. The thing is, though, none of this would have happened if they just used Steam. Because then it'd be like, this is Valve's problem. You know?
Yeah.
And so I just think that, like, Bethesda just put them in a really shitty position on accident.
Yeah.
So another issue that I believe is coming up is that the people who are unable to get a refund are people who purchase it directly from Bethesda. Amazon will give you refunds, other game retailers will give you refunds, but Bethesda will not.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting distinction.
I think that I don't know that Amazon would if the game is already opened and stuff, though. Because I think Amazon's return policy is kind of weird on digital items, so... So I'm not entirely sure about that one, but I like it does make sense that it would be Bethesda, because there's no real avenue for that, like, on Bethesda's launcher, like, and there really should be. And actually, like, Steam took forever to get to that point too, kind of, but, like... At the point in time where you're creating a launcher that is supposed to be competing with like Battle.net and Steam, you should have some of those functionality built in. Or if you don't, at least don't deny people who go through support.
Yeah.
Right. See, I would like everybody who wants a refund on this game to be able to get a refund, but I also know that there are people who are just trying to game it. It's like very difficult. Like I work in retail. There are people who will buy a Christmas tree at the beginning of December and then return it at the end of December. And it's like, you're just trying to game it. There was nothing wrong with this product. Like you didn't
but it has gone on sale, so you might as well.
Right.
Like essentially people are trying to get the amount of value that they could have bought if they would have waited what is essentially 1 week.
But if they had just waited initially, like it's not.
Well,
like
I think it depends. I understand
it
more if you didn't spend like 100 hours in it in the first week. Because if you spend 100 hours in it in the first week, you bought for the privilege of playing 100 hours in the first week. I'm sorry, right? But people will game the system, and I totally agree. But at the same time, like, if it was on Steam, then they would have been aged out, and then people would be complaining to Valve.
Yeah,
so,
or people wouldn't be complaining at all.
Right.
Like people who are eligible for a Valve refund are people who legitimately don't like the game, want to refund it, want to wait on it, and people who are ineligible for it probably had all of their time in it. You know, like
but I'm sure there's also a contingent of people who bought the game, tried to run it on their computer, have less than half an hour in it because they have come to the conclusion that it runs like trash on their computer and couldn't get a refund because Bethesda supports being dickbags. Like,
right. Yeah.
So
a lot of
I don't think anybody's being good here. Like,
No.
the only people who are being burned are the people who actually want refunds.
Yeah.
So this whole situation is stupid.
I agree. And I think, like, there's no way, like, if it actually goes to court, there's no way Bethesda can win it because
they're going to lose.
Consumer protection laws in other countries. I don't think US has as strict consumer protection laws, but in other countries, like, they're just going to be required to give refunds. There's no ands, ifs, or buts.
Actually, I think in the United States, digital products is unclear law right now.
Okay.
And actually, this is a problem with like apps and all sorts of shit. With in terms of the United States legal system right now, like it is not clear cut, and that's kind of the problem. In other places, they've decided to proactively create some of the laws for better or for worse. But here, it's kind of like up in the air still, and there hasn't been legislation about it because legislation is really slow in the United States, so a lot of it is handled up in judiciary precedent, and there hasn't been any of that yet for digital products here. So,
Right.
except for in some cases with licensing, that's why a lot of it has licensing in terms of use and stuff. But even EULAs aren't binding contracts in the United States, so it's who knows.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
Also, civil court is different than like criminal court, so there might have a ruling about damages in a lawsuit that wouldn't actually change the law. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the a precedent in civil court might not transfer to criminal court. So that's like a different ball of wax too.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, that whole thing's interesting, but also stupid.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Apple. Apple. Speaking
Here's
of lawsuits,
the people that I actually hope get
Speaking of
fucked.
lawsuits.
I don't give a shit what they think they can get away with. They shouldn't be able to get away with anything. Down with Apple.
I don't know why. Like, it's weird to me that people still buy them. Their
So
marketing
what is-
campaign is
so
so
what is-
good.
actually
People
this
still trust them.
Actually, that's been declining more and more, and this year they took a big hit in the stock market because a bunch of the suppliers leaked information that they were underselling the last set of iPhones. So
Oh boy.
it actually finally is catching up with Apple, and I think the
Yeah.
headphone jack stuff really pissed people off.
Yeah,
Oh,
and not only
yeah.
that, but like the fact that Apple just straight up came out and said, "Yeah, we absolutely do fucking
Throttle
make our
phones.
phones worse as time goes on, so that you have to buy the next one. We fucking absolutely do that."
I mean, that's kind of more there's more nuance to that situation, but the fact that they were lying about it at all is bad.
yeah,
If they were upfront with what they were doing in reducing the speed so that the battery doesn't like overheat and stuff, like that would be one
If
thing.
they were
but
upfront about that, nobody would fucking buy it.
no, actually, it's really smart. It's actually a good feature. A lot of other phones do it too. They just actually
Don't say
overheat
they
and
do.
break. Like the thing about Apple's phones is it actually does. It is a good feature. The only thing
It
is
serves a hardware function.
it serves a good
Right.
purpose. It's not like it is a bad thing. It's just that they weren't transparent about it and were lying to customers about it. That's where the problem is. Like if they were if they just said, yeah, over time we throttled your phones to compensate for batteries failing, that would be whatever, and then people could take it to have their batteries replaced at an Apple store. That'd not be a problem.
They could just buy a different phone and replace their own battery for like $20.
Well, high-end flagship phones, basically all of them don't have don't have external batteries anymore. Like all the Samsung phones and all the Apple phones, like it's actually a trend
Samsung doesn't
to
do that anymore.
no, the last few haven't. I think everything
no.
past the S6 has had an internal battery. So it's not like this is just Apple doing this, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, like, I definitely agree. Apple's bad, but then, like, a lot of, like, the Samsung and Google Android shit isn't exactly fucking ideal either.
yeah, and
Sure.
Like,
but because Apple's a market leader, other
Yeah.
phones are getting away with it because iPhone does it though. Like,
yeah.
Apple has had baked-in batteries for a long time. It wasn't until the S6 that the Samsung finally decided to wrap it in. So
Yeah.
and that goes the same for extra like expandable memory. Like the S6 didn't have a SD card slot, but then the S7 did again because
Right.
they like so and then Apple phones don't have expandable memory at all because they want to upcharge you on the higher end
Yeah, but
like memory.
The
So there's like
the
So-
difference is those other people like the other phone manufacturers are following the trend of iPhone because it's so successful, whereas Apple is actively trying to fuck you as hard as they can with no remorse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the main difference, and that's what makes it seem so much less sleazy when like an Android manufacturer does it.
Yeah, and
Right.
even and honestly, if I could have one thing, I just want someone to make like just like a pretty open fucking operating system for phones.
Yeah.
It's like this completely modular and you can put fucking anything on it.
You mean
Well,
Android?
yeah, I was gonna say Android is pretty much that.
Android is legitimately that. Android is open source.
Yeah.
You like so, and actually, like something like the Pixel, is a flagship phone and it has a clean operating system. So
Okay.
I mean, because it's Google stock, it's like Samsung that puts weird bloat in it. But like,
yeah,
the Pixel,
that's really what it is. Yeah.
the Pixel is made by Google, so it has stock stuff.
Right.
Actually, I think,
Yeah.
but Samsung's like tweaks aren't all bad either. But it's like just a thing. A lot of phones are using software to differentiate their products from other people, so that there's some of that.
Right.
But you know, you can bolt anything you want onto Android. So there's actually like completely free and open OSs you can flash onto it if you want.
Yeah.
Or versions of Android, but you like, so it's not like that doesn't exist. It's just the big flagship phones don't usually do that out of the box because they're trying to be different.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, back to this lawsuit that we have not been talking about at all.
Yeah, we're just talking about how much we hate Apple.
So
The
Apple
only
is,
fucking company that I will actively say is malicious.
yeah, for the most part.
I think most companies are just incompetent.
I think Apple's greedy. I wouldn't say malicious, but I would say greedy.
Okay.
So Apple's headed to the Supreme Court because there was a lower ruling in the appeals court about their app store being a monopoly. So the lawsuit is accusing the tech giant of violating federal antitrust laws due to its closed-off app store market. I'm reading a story from pocketgamer.biz, in case you're interested where I'm getting this information.
Okay.
So any app sold on the iOS must go through Apple's own store, and the company gets a 30% cut of any sales made on or within the app.
Right.
And then there's places where the revenue split differs. But the lawsuit claims that such dominance on the marketplace amounts to a monopoly and forces users to overpay since there's nothing else to compete with the iOS ecosystem on Apple phones. It doesn't say that, but I need to specify that on Apple phones.
It does. It says there's nothing else to compete with it in the iOS ecosystem.
Right.
Right.
But I mean, that's not. I don't think that's clear enough on Apple phones specifically because yeah,
There's like the Google Play Store and stuff on other types of phones, but
right. So it was reviewed by the Ninth Circuit of the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and now they have to go to the Supreme Court to deal with it. So the thing here is, this is okay. So the worst case scenario for Apple here is that they're forced to have an avenue to sideload apps. If any of you remember how Fortnite on the Android does not go through the Google Play Store, the purpose of that is
so that they don't have to share their money.
They don't have to give a cut to Google by selling it on the App Store. So if you want Fortnite on Android, you have to download it on Epic's website, and then you can install it on your phone, and then you have to like push buttons to say like, yes, I agree with having this app, the unrecognized app or whatever.
Your APKs and stuff.
Yeah. So you have to go through a few extra steps, but it's so that Epic doesn't have to give their, I don't even know if it's 30%, but it's some cut to Google. They don't have to give the Google cut. Apple or Android, you've always been able to do that. Like if you don't want to go through the Google Play Store, you don't have to. On iOS, there's no way to do that. The closest thing you can do is jailbreak your phone and then have some weird specified, like directly built for it apps, but that gets really complicated.
But I'm pretty sure that Apple said that was illegal, and they got smacked with the hammer and said, "No, bitch, you're not a court. Fuck you. That's not illegal."
Yeah, they
Okay.
Apple also tried to stop you from even jailbreaking the phone by suing you. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all of the stuff like they Apple phones will actively brick themselves if they think that you're not a tech repairman for Apple. If you're not giving Apple money to repair your phone,
if you are the tech
then
priest
fuck
of the
you.
tech Appalanicus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but in 2012 the iPhone was made legal to jailbreak. Because it's unclear. It's kind of, this is another like unsettled law, kind of weird gray area, but it may have fallen under copyright to jailbreak your phone, but it was ruled that you can. So it's like,
Right.
yeah. So, but it still voids the warranty anyway.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I think that's a good compromise.
Wait, didn't we talk about something about that last year? Like editing your software and hardware doesn't void the warranty, or they were in the Supreme Court about it?
Yeah, that was
Somebody
there was a different thing about fixing phones.
Oh, okay, fixing, but making unauthorized changes does void your warranty.
It does it voids your warranty trying to fix it or whatever, because Apple at any point can say like, this is a thing that if you do this, we're not going to fix it anymore. Like they're like, that is legal. They can say whatever they want for the warranty. They just can't be like, you are violating our copyright law by making changes to it. Like that
Right.
is something that is just straight up Apple overreaching. So on one hand, if I'm trying to look at this as like Apple not just being greedy, there is an argument to say that like, in order to maintain the experience of their phones, they don't want people fucking with them. I get that. But that's Apple's
shit. Fuck 'em.
that's not Apple's prerogative. Like people understand that if you do weird things to your phone that that will void your Apple warranty, it's not Apple's fault. Nobody thinks that. So like, whatever.
Yeah, people know that if you start installing weird shit, you're going to like you have a chance at fucking up your software. Like that's everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario for Apple is that they have to allow a way to sideload apps. Best case scenario for Apple is they win and it becomes settled in the Supreme Court that they are not a monopoly because they allow individuals within their marketplace to set prices.
Right.
So like they would be establishing that they are allowed to be permanent middlemen on their device.
Right. See that's what I find strange. Why does this constitute a monopoly? It's not like they are the only way to install software on any piece of mobile device. It is their particular devices that they have it like this. There are other competitors such as Google Play Store on different devices. So if it's solely within their own created devices, what makes that constitute a monopoly?
It's a monopoly because, or it can be argued that it's a monopoly because the only way to get apps on that device is through them.
Whereas like, yeah, on Android you can even go to like a website and get an APK.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter that there are other phones that have their own marketplaces and that's separate. It matters more that there's a walled garden specifically for Apple.
Yeah.
It may turn out that the Supreme Court views Google Play as being an alternative and therefore iOS is not a monopoly. But that might be irrelevant, and within Apple devices in particular, it matters that you can only go through Apple. I'm not really sure because this is very confusing, minute arguments about this. Mm-hmm. So I don't
That's why it's going to the Supreme Court.
Right. They can decide whether or not having a closed wall garden within an ecosystem you created yourself constitutes a monopoly or not. If I were to venture a guess, I would say that it might be a monopoly just because Apple in this situation is acting as gatekeepers. in creating a marketplace that only people they choose can enter.
Right.
So
see, that doesn't constitute a monopoly the way that I've heard of a monopoly. A monopoly that I know traditionally would be something like if Amazon were essentially the only place to buy things online, then that would be a monopoly, and Amazon would be forced to do something about it, like allow alternatives. If like,
but that's the thing. The argument is that the only place to buy iPhone apps is through Apple.
Yeah.
That could be argued as being a monopoly because there are no other choices on that device.
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not a device on a different phone counts or not. I don't know.
Right.
And that's what this fucking Supreme Court case is going to find out.
Yeah, it would be more clear cut if Apple was on all phones and you could only buy iPhone apps or Apple app, or I don't know, iPhone apps on all phones through Apple like that. Then it would be 100% clear cut a monopoly. But I think the reason why it seems to me that it might be a monopoly is just because we're talking about a specific marketplace. We're talking about a marketplace with one supplier. And it's a contrived marketplace with one supplier. It doesn't have to be true that that Apple's only source of apps is through that marketplace, but it is because Apple has made a decision. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like this is a random happenstance of, like, for instance, Microsoft with Windows being so far ahead of their competitors in the past that
they were forced to.
They were the monopoly just because there were no competitors. Like it's not like a natural monopoly. It's
right. I get it. It's like a monopoly that they have created within their own
right. And there's another problem in that no matter how it rules here in the United States, it might be different than the European Union, because in the European Union, you may recall that Internet Explorer Microsoft got in a lawsuit because of Internet Explorer, and that having a built-in web browser in the operating system was like a problem because it made a large percentage of people use Internet Explorer. Like,
right.
And that there was no competition in internet browsers or something in the European Union, which in retrospect makes no fucking sense. But like at the time, they decided that Microsoft was not allowed to bundle in Internet Explorer in their operating system.
That's But then what do you use to download Firefox?
A disk.
Yeah.
You had to get a disk, an internet browser on a disk somewhere else, and you had to install it that way.
That is ridiculous.
Straight up, that's how you had to do it. Like there was no, because you had no access to the internet. There's no way to go onto the internet because you didn't have a browser. It made no sense.
What?
Yeah. So there are and that's why sometimes in the European Union they have these weird legal interpretations in law that they've proactively made that makes no fucking sense and makes weird things happen in other territories. I don't know which is better, honestly. Like, on one hand, they have great consumer protections. On the other hand, you run into weird situations like that. In the United States,
which eventually make fucking Microsoft just boost up their shit because they have to sell you that disc.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, the customer suffers because of it.
Yeah, so, or suddenly you're getting bundles where it's like, okay, Windows is $1.98 or $198, and the internet browser is $1, and here's a bundle. So I don't know.
Jesus,
it's strange. On the other hand, in the United States, we have all of these legal gray areas because we'll never make laws about them. So So I don't know which is better or which one's worse, because they both have their strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, best case scenario for Apple, they are, Supreme Court precedent says that they're allowed to wall off their garden as much as they want, and you have to go through Apple if you want to get an app on an Apple product.
Oh man.
Which would be a different kind of hell. But I guess that's the hell we're living in now, so whatever.
Yeah. I mean, again, at least there are just alternatives to Apple itself.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna lose, but I don't know. Apple's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
I
not...
think that's it.
Obviously, I'm not a fan of their business practices, but I'm not saying Apple products are bad. So I don't want people to, like, come at me with pitchforks and torches saying, you hate Apple, Apple can do no wrong. Like, I acknowledge that the iPhone is a very well-designed phone. I acknowledge that their laptops and iPads and whatever, headphone jack or no, are good products. But
You all want to come at me with that shit, though? Go right ahead. Fuck
but
it.
as a company, I think that they have some very, if nothing else, rude business business decisions. I don't know.
They're not, and it's really weird. I've been thinking about this. This is like a little bit of a tangent, but it's so weird that like there are like these weird tech companies, including like, and especially because I was thinking about EA, and it's like they're kind of going against what the credo of the customer is always right means, in that you have to treat your customers good, but it seems like they're just constantly thinking, how can we make more money and fuck the customers as much as possible? What can we get away with? Rather than thinking like, you know, this will make us more money. They're just like constantly trying to push the boundaries. That's sort of why, you know, like we talked about Fallout 76 last week, and it was like the thing about gamers having two emotions, which is absolute puerile joy and fucking anger. And it's because like a lot of game companies have been really, really shit to their customers for no like discernible reason aside from how bad can we treat them before they turn on us.
Right. I just wish more companies valued goodwill.
Yeah.
Because really, like, that's like a lasting investment. You know, if you make people like you enough, people will buy your shit no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Like, look at CD Projekt Red. They have spent a lot of money on goodwill. And now, you know that 1 million people are going to buy CD or Cyberpunk and not even like blink.
Like
even if it's not what they want, they're not going to refund it because they love the developer.
The Witcher 1 was a niche product. The Witcher 2 had some traction because a lot of people heard about how much people liked the first Witcher. But The Witcher 3 was like, this is competition for fucking Skyrim.
A lot of people were like, this is fucking better than Skyrim.
Okay, yes, that's not what I was saying. That's not what I was
saying. Specifically,
that's not what people were saying. I'm saying that The Witcher 3 stacked up against Skyrim for popular appeal.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's the thing. And I feel like nowadays with the whole internet and stuff, goodwill is a much like more lucrative currency than it has ever been.
Yeah.
And yet a lot of companies are just trying to push the bar with how horrible they can be.
We're looking at you, EA.
Yeah, we're specifically very much talking about you by name, EA.
Yeah.
You guys are just the worst.
And that's why Ubisoft has gotten away with so much, because in a lot of ways they're very similar to EA's practices, but they're
just not as bad.
It doesn't seem like, but they don't. It doesn't feel like they're trying to fuck you. It feels like they're making monetization decisions that you might not agree with, but it doesn't feel like they're actively trying to hurt you with them the way that EA is.
It feels like they're almost like following in EA's steps a little bit behind, and just like having EA test the waters to see if there's fucking sharks in there.
Yeah.
And just like sort of backing up if there are.
Yeah, it's like EA and Activision, man. Those are the two big ones. And then like you have other people. Like, even Blizzard within Activision is, like, slightly better than EA is, which is, like, weird. Or, not EA, Activision, so...
Blizzard's big fumble has been, like, this year was Diablo Immortal, but, like, the idea that they're coming out with Diablo Immortal is not... It doesn't feel like something like they're like, we don't give a shit about our customers, go fuck yourselves.
That's just blind rage at... maybe a bad result, you know what I mean? I think a more apt comparison would be like they got yelled at for having timed skins and there was no way to get them other than getting them in loot boxes, but later on they fixed that. Like, that would be a more comparable thing to me. Like, they pissed them off that way, but then they fixed it, right?
Right.
Not just like, we're coming out with a thing, everyone hates us. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, Blizzard must, I want to say real quick, Blizzard must be like fucking relaxing in a fucking hot tub right now because the gaming eye of Sauron has turned to Bethesda.
They still gotta release their game, though. They still got another storm coming.
Honestly, I would not be.
Diablo Immortal.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if Diablo Immortal came out and it was good.
I wouldn't be surprised if Diablo Immortal came out and nobody even cared and forgot about it and there wasn't a big controversy when it came out. That's what I'm expecting.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is a good chance that it'll come out and be really popular and people will love it. Because I don't think Bethesda is, or I don't think Blizzard is that stupid to monetize in a way that is going to make people hate them.
Yeah.
Hate them necessarily.
They might be at worst, Blizzard will be as bad as other people on mobile, but they're not going to be other people in the Western market of mobile, but they're not going to be, the Asian market just because they're being helped by an Asian company. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
Like, so I don't know.
Yeah, Like,
that being said, I'm not super excited for Diablo Immortal. But I think that it has the potential to be good. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. The biggest problem is you have to balance your goodwill with the amount of hype you spew, and then you also have to deliver on hype. And that, I think, that's the problem that most of these gaming controversies in like the last year have all come up against, is that they spew hype for like
except for Fallout 76. That's what's the funny about it. They even put on the Twitter or something a while ago. It's like, hey, now be like, don't get over excited for this. Like, you need to see it. Like, there was definitely tweets of
there
them
was, like,
trying to like prepare people, I think. But people were so hyped about Fallout naturally. I don't think Bethesda was even egging them on, really.
Yeah, I think they announced it at E3 and then it's been silent since.
So I don't know. I don't know how much I don't know how much it's Bethesda's fault that it was as hyped as it was, but they have fumbled on some of how they've been handling it, for sure.
Whereas Diablo Immortal was such a huge backlash because of the way they announced it. We discussed this. Like, they went to their own hype convention, and that was their biggest fucking announcement.
And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at a lot of the like right now I have the fucking reviews for Path of Exile up, and most of them are, I saw your commercial at BlizzCon.
Yeah, so like that's the thing about goodwill. You said that, like, that's the most important currency. The developers like Digital Extremes and Grinding Gear Games, like, they have so much of it to spend. I don't know if they ever will be able to.
Yeah. Well, and even some companies like Blizzard can fuck people over, and people will still love and protect them.
For sure.
So, like, I don't think Blizzard is the worst example of anybody in the gaming industry right now, but like, they do have some fucked up shit. Like, the way that I think the way that microtransactions are handled in Heroes of the Storm isn't great. But
no, it's like $10 for a fucking character.
But like, at the same time, I don't know. There was like small waves of controversy when they first changed to have loot boxes, but past that, nobody really complained about it.
Yeah,
it's certainly not as much as like Diablo Immortal. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what's funny? You talk about like CD Projekt Red and how like much hype that they've gained, and even if it is honestly part of the hype, that 1 hour of gameplay was like that they just legitimately put was just fun to watch. So,
Cyberpunk 2077 looks incredible, but
in fair, I think that I do think that it's hard to compare it to a game like Fallout in general. Yeah. Because Fallout is a slower game anyway, you know? Like a lot of what people like about Fallout is slowly walking through corridors. So like,
Yeah.
how do you have an exciting video the same way you did for Cyberpunk? I don't know.
Oh no, I was just talking about like general like
general like
just
hype
general
building.
like hype. You know,
and
like
that was
I'm
kind
just,
of
I'm
what I
just-
was.
yeah.
That was kind of what I was gonna say. Like, Cyberpunk 2077 looks great, but even if it were an identical game, looked exactly the same, everybody who watched it was excited for it. If The Witcher 3 hadn't been such a breakout success, this like not as many people would be have their eye on Cyberpunk 2077 in the first place.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like Cyberpunk 2077 has a lot going for it. One, The Witcher 3 was really good. We haven't had a super good Cyberpunk game since like Deus Ex Human Revolution. Not counting like the fucking Shadowrun and stuff though.
Yeah.
And like fucking it's just like it has just a ton of hype around it in general.
Right.
And yeah, but I think the difference is the hype for Cyberpunk was very much organic hype. And even Fallout 76, I would say, was kind of organic hype. But like, because I don't think either of those companies were really out there going, check out our new game, look at this.
Yeah.
But I think there are plenty of companies who do fuck that up too.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. Because if you think about the amount of hype that Cyberpunk has and the amount that they've released, they have like 2 trailers and a gameplay video of the first hour of the game, and that's fucking it. But people are going apeshit, and I'm going apeshit.
Yeah.
There's actually 4 or 5 different versions of that first hour too.
Yeah.
It's not just like that first hour.
Like
is cool.
You have hype that people build for games, and everybody's like, oh, this game looks great. But then you also have people like CD Projekt Red, where people are like, we know this developer's incredible, so let's look at their game. And then the game is like, wow, that actually looks really good. You know, so it's 2 different types of hype, and that second type of hype is easier to fall back on. Like, if your game isn't that good, it's not like you said, oh, this game is gonna be great and you all should love it. It's like everybody loved it because they think you're great, and they're like, oh,
that's what happened to
these guys fucked up this time.
That's what happened with Fable and Peter Molyneux way back when. Like he was
happened with
overhyping
Spore,
his game
too.
so much. Yeah, and Spore,
Yeah.
that's a good example. Or anything Peter Molyneux has touched, or
Yeah,
anything
Peter Molyneux was touched.
or anything
Yeah, pretty much.
Tim
Peter
Schafer
Molyneux
has
is
touched
just
also.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So there are people that are more guilty of it than others. I feel like Bethesda really just fucked themselves over because they didn't see things coming. Like, they didn't anticipate things well, but
Yeah.
I don't know. People can just be in their own development box sometimes, and I think can make poor choices because they don't understand they don't see far enough away from where they're at.
Yeah.
From a perspective way. Anyway, why don't we get out of here, because we've been
we've been going on this a lot longer than I thought we would.
sure
only had,
have.
like, a couple
Yeah.
of things.
Wow. Okay.
we started ranting about Apple and then moving
Yeah.
on to hype.
Yeah. I mean, it filled in news.
Yeah.
This is almost a 3-hour podcast because of it, but
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Jeez.
all right, so we're gonna head out for the week. Why don't we talk about some of the stuff we have coming up? We just came out with a Hollow Knight video, right, Thel?
Hell yeah,
Oh,
boy.
yeah. And it's fucking hilarious.
Oh,
My
God, I'm
favorite-
glad.
My favorite part is when you go into the long-winded explanation of your build and just talk about Path of Exile instead of Hollow Knight.
Yeah. Yeah. New Hollow Knight video is
Look
out.
for
Next video I'm going to do is probably going to be something related to X4, unless it's absolutely fucking trash, which it very well might be, and that scares me because I'm looking forward to it.
Right. What do you okay, so your schedule's kind of up in the air, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to talk about my stream real quick. Due
Go ahead.
to essentially scheduling changes with all 3 of us, like, for example, for me, it's becoming the holiday season and I work in grocery, so
Your
it's
schedule's
going to
just
be
been all over the
really
place.
difficult. Yeah, my schedule has been all over the place. I'm really considering restructuring my stream schedule, and as such, I'm going to just go on hiatus for this week, and I'll be resuming that on December 1st. best place to find out will be to follow me on Twitter. That's where I'll be posting my revised schedule on Saturday, December 1st. So look for it there.
You can also join our Discord, and there you can interact with us directly and ask, and then any information about stream schedule or whatever, we'll also post the information there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And also,
consider
we're
that.
pretty good at keeping up with the chats in there too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you actually want to talk directly with us, we're a small enough community that that's totally possible
Yeah.
at this point.
Join us on Discord. It's down in the panels on my stream, and it will be posted in the description on the YouTube channel as well.
Yep. Was there one more thing you wanted to say, Dalsson, before you?
Yeah, I'm not sure how people feel about it because I know that people really won't like a consistent schedule, but my consideration is possibly just going week to week, looking at my work schedule, and then deciding a schedule whenever I get my work schedule and posting it for the following week. That might work out better for me, but I don't know how good it'll work for consistency.
Honestly, it might just help to set like a certain number of hours a day and just stream every day for a certain number of hours.
And possibly.
Just whenever.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean like in a consistent way. I mean like
3
hours a day sometime during the day. Because I honestly, it almost might be better just to get more time in, more so than anything consistent, just because of where you are with your schedule.
And I'd say stuff, but I have no idea how fucking Twitch works. So
the biggest issue with scheduling on Twitch is that people want to know when to expect you, because like think about it, if you were to watch a television show, would you want it to come on look for it this week sometime and just pay attention, or would you want to know that it's coming on at Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, but I think the problem is if you can't maintain any sort of regularity because of forces outside of your control, you should instead just double down on putting as much stream time as you can instead.
Yeah.
Like,
and not only that, but thankfully nowadays with streaming and stuff, it's like you don't necessarily just have to watch the channel and hope that it comes on. What you can do is you can get email alerts as to when the show is going to come on and be like, oh shit.
Yeah,
I
people
think
just browse.
Surprisingly,
anyway.
that is a feature that a lot of people don't know about with Twitch, actually. But
really, because when you follow, I feel like it does that automatically. I remember I had to actively turn it off.
No, it's turned off by default in your options, and then you can turn it off for individual streamers as well.
Okay.
Well, I think you can also turn it on for individual streamers as well. So
yeah.
So if you really care, get email alerts. I don't know.
Yeah, follow the Twitch channel and get email alerts if you're really interested. Like I said, I'll be posting my schedules on Twitter. So
So I think that's it for us this week. Thanks for joining us, and remember, as always,
stay beautiful.